All right. I think we are. I think we're online. Daria, you're watching in the other room. Can you hear me? Is the audio is the audio working? All right. So unless I hear negative feedback, thank you for joining. This is our first public live stream. I am going to answer one question right off the bat because I see one on screen. Where are you doing live from? I'm at home. This is my house, and usually. This is a lot more, let's say, scary and intimidating than it normally would be to go live because I used to do this. I mean, I was like, my first career was as a sports play-by-play guy, where we would go live and broadcast a game, football, basketball, and then when you're doing that, you get used to talking off the cuff. The problem is we are in the middle of production of a video right now, and we have a big one that we're working on. Just to kind of, since you're taking the time to be here, I'll give you the spoiler. Our next one is going to be the history of noodles, and I'll tell you that story before I get into questions. But if you want to ask questions about noodles, that's the only thing in my mind right now. Like, I was up pretty much all night last night trying to get this draft done. We finished filming yesterday at the locations where we're going to show, and the next step is recording to camera. And those videos, like the history of curry, the history of chili peppers, the history of rice and salt, coconut, those are the 5 that we've done. This will be number 6. We don't get a chance to do our usual like 10, 11, 12 versions of the script. I have to get it right. Because we recorded to camera, so there's no redos. And as you'll notice, this is not the background of those videos. We taped them. We actually go out to Kate's place, the restaurant that's I think on Soy 36, which has this really beautiful kind of upstairs room that's not used during the daytime. That's our setting, and so I have to get it right. We only get one chance. So today, like, got my 4 hours of sleep, got back up, went right back into kind of taking my. I think at one point, this one, I had about 100 pages of notes that I'm trying to consolidate into a script. And that's I finished the last segment 4 minutes before we went live. And so, yeah, History of Noodles is the next one coming up. And right now, if you ask me to talk about what's on my mind, it is pasta and noodles. And that's pretty much it. But thank you so much for being here and for your support of 2 years of OTR. We hit 2 years 2 days ago. August 16th is the official anniversary, and Sunday might make more sense for doing a live stream, and couldn't do it yesterday because we were filming. So yeah, I remember pressing upload. We were sitting at a coffee shop when we put that first video online, and hitting upload. It was like, the idea of what the next 2 years was going to look like is just, that was completely incomprehensible. This was such a completely foreign journey that I had no idea where this was going. I still don't know where this is going, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun. So thank you. Now we have questions, and that's kind of the purpose of this. I wanted to get a chance to talk to you. I really wish this was more like a Zoom format where I could actually hear from you, and that might be something we'll look into doing one day. But as we're doing it this way, oh, money! Somebody just sent 10 A's. I guess that's Australian dollars. Jefe Pero, thank you so much. I forgot that was a component of live streams. This feels like it's like OnlyFans. I shouldn't make that joke. We're live. I can't undo that. Let me get to some questions. We have a few. This is going to be a little complicated because Daria runs our Instagram. A couple of questions, and so we have some that she's just forwarded to me. We have a couple that have been posted to OTR on the channel page, and then this is we're so far behind already in the chat. Let me start. Let me scroll up and start from try to take some of these questions. So I guess let's go in order. First ones that were sent in were on Instagram. So let me quickly get to some of those first. So first one comes in from TW1NZOR. By the way, I'm going to try and get to as many questions as I can. As of now, and we'll see how quickly I run out of steam, I have my soda water, something that Thailand does exceptionally well. I have my my bottle of water, and on the other side. And so I mean, I could be here all night. Like, I'm in no hurry. We could be doing this for as long as it takes. So if you don't have anywhere to be, I don't have anywhere to be either. So let's start with the first questions. These come in from the Instagram. I think we got 8 of them. Dari, is that right? We have 8 questions sent in through Instagram? 7 or 8. All right. So first one, do you agree that Thailand has, I should have prepared for this. I'm just diving in right from literally just starting at number 1 without reading these first. So I don't know if the order is going to make any sense, but how else would you do this? Do you agree that Thailand has the most diversity of food culture from around the world? I mean, without that being something that I think is a case you could make, we couldn't do OTR here. Like, I was actually thinking about, when we started the channel, I'm going to give long answers too, so we really might be here a while. When we started the channel, I didn't know what this was going to be. If you go back 2 years ago and you watch our first upload, which was the one we filmed in Noodle, that was kind of a straightforward, like, we're walking around and trying some food. And I think in the beginning, that's what food content usually is online. That's what I sort of thought we were doing. And so I thought, that was the direction we were going to go, and I told this, if you watched our 1-year anniversary video last year, I kind of told the story about how we started the channel and what made this happen. And a big part of it was Chris and Steph from Chinese Cooking Demystified living at our house here in Thailand at the time and kind of pushing me towards doing it. I didn't want to open another restaurant because I liked Bangkok and I liked exploring Bangkok, and I didn't want to be locked into to something where you're just always in one place. And so, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm not qualified to do very much outside of food, except for talk, because again, my first career was as a broadcaster. So Chris was staying at our house, and he's kind of telling me, this is something that I should consider doing. And so, I don't really know what direction that was going to take. When we filmed that first video, the first one that went online up in Nonthaburi, we were watching it later back in my house, and Chris's feedback was he liked the part where I was talking about history. And as he was saying, there's not that much online that's doing that in relation to food. And, but if you, again, go back and see our early catalog, it took a while to kind of figure out how that was going to work. I'm still kind of figuring out how to best incorporate that into a food video. The first one, I think I just kind of had a little voiceover while we were walking around a market about like what the context was of Nonthaburi. And then we're eating boat noodles later, and I just start kind of rambling to the camera without any prep about like why they're called boat noodles. But that seemed to be something that was probably the strength of that first video. So, we started to kind of try to work that a little bit more into these. And as OTR, if we'd stuck with that first idea, which was just walking around and eating food and, doing what other people do, I don't mean that as any disrespect. I mean, people do it because it's a good format. It's an easy way for somebody new to a city to learn your way around, is to watch that kind of video. If we'd done that, I think we could have done this pretty much anywhere. But once we started going into the history direction, we had to be in a place like Bangkok, where there's a lot to choose from different cultures. The question was, is this the best city in the world for diversity of food? I don't think so. I still say New York, not Times Square, New York, but New York City probably, especially if you walk around Queens, that would be number 1. Number 2, I think this is up there. I haven't been to London in a really long time, but I think Bangkok's probably ahead of that. Within Asia, this would be, maybe not the best city for density of incredible food. Tokyo is hard to beat in that regard, but for just diversity of what you can find. I mean, just watch our channel. We film here because we don't have a lot of budget, and and this is one of the few cities on earth, maybe one of the top 2, that lets us pick pretty much anything and explore it. Okay, next question: is Cambodia on the horizon? Yes. And I promise I'm going to quickly get into the questions you guys have asked on the live stream. I'll take a break from Instagram and get to live stream questions next. Is Cambodia on the horizon? This was from Alex Chung, 1995. Yes. And again, you go back to how the channel started. We used to have that trailer up on the page that was like, we're not here to teach, we're here to learn. I started OTR not because we were experts in this, but because I wanted to to learn, what we were kind of like what the context was of the stuff that we were finding and experiencing. And, diving into these subjects gives me a chance to do what I really enjoy doing, which is reading and research, and then, figuring out how to kind of follow a thread. And Cambodia is a complete blank slate. The Khmer Rouge did a really good job of decimating all of the country's recorded history. All the recipe books were burned. Anything that kind of explained what was Khmer cuisine pre, late 1970s, it's not that much out there. And I have a real personal affinity for Cambodia. My uncle used to run an NGO there, and that was the first place in Southeast Asia I ever visited to see family. And so I'd love to dive into Cambodian food. I feel like I'm a little bit, unqualified whenever it comes up in a topic that we're covering, because I don't know much about it. There are things that make sense. If you look at kind of this big hole that's missing from Southeast Asia, and of course the history of, the Khmer Empire, was significant, and it had a lot of influences. That was, huge relationship with India, huge relationship with the Javanese. There was some food that we would probably all know that has some ties to Cambodia, but I don't know what that is, because those records are lost. And so there are people who have devoted their lives to studying Cambodian food. I want to meet them. I'd love to go there and just kind of learn and see what happens. Let's take questions from the chat. First one, can I ask you a question in advance? Where is Jasper? Are you guys still in contact? Yeah, so when we started, Jasper was our first producer. I guess, either him or you're asking because he used to show up in videos from time to time. Yeah, Jasper was our first videographer, and, he was with us for about the first year of the channel. Did a good job, but when we started, we were making these 12, 15-minute long videos. By the end, it became this huge production that was sort of, Jasper had a lot of things that he kind of wanted to do. And the time commitment when we went from doing 12-minute videos to doing, I think, the last one before we kind of made that decision that this wasn't necessarily right for both of us was an hour and 16 minutes long. And so, yeah, Jasper was with us, worked hard, did good work. I wish him well. What is your favorite cuisine or cuisines? This from Rihan. Depends what's in front of me. I was asked the question of what would be the last meal. I think for the last meal, I think my mom's online watching this, looking at the people who are in the chat. And so if she is, then your pesto from the garden would be in that meal. Sichuan spicy chicken, of course. Again, you've heard me talk about it 1,000 times on the channel. Just a perfect piece of otoro from Japan. I don't need a huge sushi dinner, but just that perfect nigiri of tuna belly. That's in my last meal is I'm going to eat. My last meal is going to last a long time. There's, I think, from, if we're talking about overall cuisines, Thailand's up there. Sichuan is up there. That's what I used to cook. That was what sort of got me into the culinary world as a chef. I really love, I used to have an office when I had a little wine business when I was running restaurants in China, and we had an office in northern Italy. I love Italian food. That was a really fun rabbit hole to go down in this Noodle video that we're working on. Yeah, I don't know. It's you go somewhere and you find it's so hard to say it here because you travel somewhere and the food wherever you are, because of, people's ability to cook and because of local ingredients, you're constantly amazed by something wherever you find yourself. When I was in Sri Lanka, I would have said Sri Lankan food is my favorite cuisine. Me and Daria came back to China and almost wanted to just open a Sri Lankan restaurant. Being in Ethiopia, when I went there for the first time, Ethiopian food is something that, I completely fell in love with. Here in Asia, if my test is, would you jump on a plane for one meal? I've done that to Malaysia. I've done that to Indonesia. Nasi Padang is high on my list. I have done that to, I think the dog just stepped on the TV remote. I've done that. Yeah. So that's my answer. It depends what you put in front of me. But if I had to give you the political answer is Thailand, because we're primarily a Thai food focused channel, and we're in Thailand. Thai food does combine a lot of elements of some amazing stuff. For the diversity of a cuisine where you have this incredible sort of the Isan traditions and the food in the South, which is my personal favorite directional Thai cuisine, the Chinese style stuff here in Bangkok. Yeah, Thai food's, if not at the top, it's certainly top three. Let's keep going. Hello, all. I overslept the Patreon stream. Happy to make this one. It's almost 6 a.m. here from P. McIntyre. Not a question, but I want to ask you. It's almost 6 a.m. here. Is this early in the morning or late at night? Either way, thank you. So what else do we have scrolling through? Can we expect Franciscus Snell? Can we expect to see a special on Thailand's Nam Pricks soon? Are you? I'm gonna guess you are. If not the one, then one of the guys who asks that question in the comments almost every week. We get that question a lot. The answer is yes, but I don't know how. Like this is, we have to kind of take into consideration. I talked about this on the Patreon live stream for the few people here who probably were part of that. And we're going to do this maybe once a month for Patreon. The one thing that I struggle with is authenticity in what we're showing. It's like people ask, why didn't we do a cow soy video? We didn't do a cow soy video because we haven't filmed in Chiang Mai, and you can't do that in Bangkok and feel like you're actually telling a proper story. We've never really done an Isan food video. Like we did that one about the story of Isan food in Bangkok, but that's kind of about as comfortable as I am with, how we can talk about Isan food in a place that's not Isan. That's why we haven't done a Somtam video, because we can't do it in Bangkok. That's not a place that I think tells an honest story. Nam Pricks, like as a general category, it's just so like Nam Prick. Okay, if you're watching this and you're not in Thailand, what this is it's basically like a topping for rice. It's a translated as a chili relish, but that's a bad translation. It's a thing that you put on rice, and every family has their own. Every culture has its own. Every city has its own. And it's in China, it would be called like a xiafan. It's just something you put on rice, and like it's such a broad category that I've tried a lot. Coming up with ideas for making videos is hard, and that's been on my list, my big spreadsheet forever. To do a non-prick story, but I just don't know how. Like I don't know what the angle would be and how we can sort of encapsulate something that is so uniquely local to so many different places in a video that we're filming in one place. I think, there are a couple, like in the South, one day when we get back and film down there, maybe we can do like a Namprik Kapi video, or we'll do something, I guess, in the, Namprik Ong in the North has a really fascinating story about Mr. Ong, who supposedly invented it. And like, there are dishes, but to make a Namprik video, Franciscus, I hear you. I know that this is something that you would love to see. I would like to see it too. I have to write it, and at this point I don't know how to do it. Opinions on Biang Biang noodles. I wish I could find a good version here in Bangkok. I guess these. I'm now getting to the point in the comments where I was starting the video and talking about how we're starting the live stream and talking about how we're making a video right now on the history of noodles. What is my personal favorite noodle? Jim Pearsall, by the way, thank you. You've been one. I recognize this. It's just kind of fun for me because I'm actually recognizing names from people who've been watching the channel since the beginning. Those two comments back to back, Jim Pearsall and Don Dobbs. I remember you guys from back when we had like 10 viewers on each video. So thank you for finding us early. My favorite noodles, Chongqing Xiaomian would be up there, like the really, really spicy Sichuan noodles, is just kind of like as an everyday thing. What we filmed. So I'll go ahead and give you the spoiler. Like we filmed at 4 locations. We have 3 more that we're going to knock out on Tuesday before we do the 2 camera. We ran out of time. If you want the spoiler of what's coming up on the video, the ones that we filmed were Lanzhou Lamian, which is the Chinese, Northwestern hand-pulled noodles. We filmed at the we did Italian pasta, of course, at a restaurant here where the chef, who's from Sardinia, walked us through how to make all these different styles of Italian pasta. That was amazing. We filmed at, let me interrupt myself. We choose the locations that we're going to film for two reasons. It has to serve the story, and I have to want to eat it. At the end of the day, if I'm the guy who's eating it, I choose stuff that I like. So I'm answering your question by kind of giving you this rundown. We filmed at a incredible Japanese restaurant that's kind of this hidden spot. 35 portions a day is all they sell, and it's booked out like months in advance. So we filmed there and had an amazing couple of versions of Japanese noodles, soba, and a cold soba noodle dish, and kind of a take on ramen. And then we filmed at an instant noodle shop. We have a few more still to go. I'm going to let those be a surprise for you when the video comes out. But yeah, I don't know. Noodles are a platform for what's on top. It's hard for me to answer what's your favorite noodle dish because it's really about like what it's served with. But yeah, if I have to give you an answer, because I promised I would, on the live stream, I'm going to pull a curveball out, and I know I'll regret this later for when I think of something different, but Malaysian curry laksa, that would be my answer. That would be my personal choice for my go-to bowl of noodles. On the topic of noodles, this is from Craig Stewart Thompson. Is it possible to get good khao soi in Bangkok? In the UK, it's a pain to get to Chiang Mai. In Bangkok, it's a pain to get to Chiang Mai as well. And please tell me in the comments if you found a good khao soi in Bangkok, because so far the answer is no. It's really disappointing. I can check my Google Maps. You see this is my Google Maps pins for Bangkok. If you want to see the restaurants that we go to. Oh man, it's not as impressive. I got a new phone recently. It's not as impressive when you on the upgraded Google Maps. It just looks like these tiny little dots. This used to just look like a giant mess of all kinds of stuff. You can't even see it on I kind of see it there. It looks like the constellations. So somewhere in what's it called? Here we go. Pardon me for just a second. This is terrible live streaming. Man Muang restaurant, which is a northern Thai place. It's kind of pan northern Thai. It's got a massive menu. That's up in kind of in between Bang Kapi and Minburi. That's my favorite bowl of khao soi that I've found so far in Bangkok. But it's nothing like Chiang Mai. Are you planning to stay in Thailand long term? I lost the question. Oh wow, I might be here for a while. Okay, I lost it. Are you planning to stay in Thailand long term? And if so, what was the moment you fell in love with the country? Good question. So staying in Thailand long term, I don't know. Yes. I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of days ago about how much fun it is to explore somewhere, just to like unwrap the present of being in a new place. It was an amazing experience in Bangkok to kind of like, I hated Thailand as a tourist. I really did not like coming here, as a tourist, or when I'd come here on work trips. You stay in Nana, you think that that's sort of what this whole country is. And coming here to live and sort of unraveling the mystery of what this incredible place is, that was an amazing experience. And if I'm just going to be completely honest, I want to have that experience again someday. I think a lot of it depends on the channel, what makes sense. We are extremely happy here. I don't want to leave. It's going to be a heartbreaking day, if and when we ever move on. But I think, the world's a big place, and I'd really like to see as much of it as I can. I don't know what would be next. And again, some of that comes down to the channel. At some point before I'm gone, while I'm still here, I want to live in Africa. That's, we are sort of torn on where that would be. My favorite place was, when Daria and I got stuck in Africa and spent 3 months driving across the continent during COVID. We couldn't make it back to China after our little Chinese New Year trip to Namibia and South Africa. We got a fake driver's license and rented a car and started driving. What grabbed me was Uganda. I just thought, food especially, but people, like landscape, everything. Uganda was just like, that was I want to spend some time here. Daria likes things like, consistent electricity and being able to like go to a gym. And so uh, Cape Town is sort of maybe the consensus choice to use as a base to one day explore the African continent. But we'll see. Again, this is a long way off. I would say that at this point, I can confidently say that I'm happily in Bangkok for at least another couple of years. And the moment I fell in love with the country was the first full day we were here when we were staying at a friend's house in Bang Na, and he took us to Mega Bang Na to get cell phone SIM cards, and we were just so frazzled. We left China. It was, if you haven't seen it when I've talked about it on the channel before, I won't go through the whole story now, because I have 50,000 questions to get to, but it was not under the most pleasant of circumstances leaving China. We were all just deeply traumatized, coming out of 2 years of COVID lockdowns there, and then the circumstances in which we left, and foreigners were sort of getting kicked out. And it was a really hard time. I'd been in China for 13 years. Daria had been in China for 13 years. We both like never really thought we would leave. Our first language when we were there was generally Chinese. And all of a sudden we're just thrown out back into the world, and we land in Thailand, and it's, again, as Daria explained on the video last year, like it was in the middle of COVID curfew. It was an 8 p.m. curfew, and our flight from Hong Kong landed at 11 p.m. So we touched down in a city that was black, like all the lights were off. Bangkok is, if you're coming from China, which is just this intensely organized, look, that's Beijing behind me. It's just concentric circles of ring roads, and then we come here and it's this jumbled mess of chaos, and all the lights are off. And it was just, my first reaction was like, what did we get ourselves into? And the next day, Dan took us to Mega Bang Na to get our SIM cards, and we needed to eat something. And there was a restaurant, and looking at it now on Google reviews, I found a place. Pardon me, there's going to be a really obnoxious noise in the background, but it's super hot with the air conditioning off. It's the loudest aircon in the world, so I'm gonna try and keep this off as much as possible. But to survive, I have to cool down. So yeah, we just sat down at this Isan chain restaurant and ordered a whole bunch of stuff off the menu. And I remember the food coming out, and I'm just trying this. I'm like, oh, all right, this is the best thing I've eaten in a long time. I can't wait to explore. And that night, me and Daria went to Manel Lanka because we missed Sri Lankan food, and there was a restaurant here. And it was just sort of this revelation of like, there is so much that I can't wait to uncover and explore about the city. We fell in love with it almost immediately. It was within the first day. Scrolling down, let me come back to these questions. I'm going to get back to Instagram for a second. I'll skip the Clinton Chan. Does Thailand feel like home yet? I kind of just went through that. Yes, it definitely feels like home. I can't imagine right now being anywhere else. Boat Cooks also asks, is Bangkok home? Very much, yes, it is. Any plans on an episode in Isan from eBurk02? I kind of answered that when I said we have to be in Isan to make videos about Isan food. Yes, a lot of our travel comes down to Daria's obsession with running. She enrolls herself in marathons, and that's our travel. And since we have to already travel, for me, it's like, well, that's half the expense. I just have to fly, my cameraman out, but I can, I'm already going to be there. We might as well film. That was what had just happened in Phuket. That's what we're going to do later this year in Vientiane. And Daria has enrolled herself in November in the Nakhon Ratchasima Marathon. And so, yes, I'm very excited to get to Korat and film. That'll be our first Isan video. If he doesn't mind me, mentioning it on the live stream, Chef Charlie from 100 Mahaseth, who is, I consider, a friend and also just a genius cook. He has proposed to me the idea before that we rent a car and do an Isan road trip where we drive all the way, at least from Bangkok to Udon Thani. And for me, that's like, let's do it. Honestly, like that was something that we were going to do earlier this year. My life sort of got thrown into chaos a little bit when our dog got sick. that was about, we realized yesterday was like the 6-month anniversary of Blanca's surgery. And that meant that I kind of had to be here while she was like 2 months of radiation treatment. It was, that shut down a lot of our travel plans for earlier this year. Thankfully, she is as healthy as could be hoped right now. Knock on wood. And so we can start to look at doing things like that again. But yeah, that's something I am very much committed to doing. Let's see what else. Will you go south to Hat Yai ever to do a piece on Southern cooking? Yes, I would love to. I think the first place in the South that will probably go for filming is going to be Krabi. And the reason is because, and by the way, I apologize if I miss questions. I'm doing my best to keep up with the questions and comments, but if I scroll too fast and I miss something, I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional. Krabi, because, again, I always feel a little bit disappointed when we make a video that's just a whole like, where are we? Here's, we did that in Ayutthaya, and I'm proud of that video, and I like how it came out, but I always really struggle with writing those and trying to make it interesting and trying to make it compelling. And I'm a lot more excited by stories we can tell that are just like, we know a family that has this amazing, history, or we, know this restaurant that we really want to, spotlight, or there's a dish. And so it's really important for me that usually when we film it somewhere that I know, that opens up a lot of stories that we, are excited to tell. It's why overseas, the first places I plan to film are going to be like, Sumatra, where I used to live, Hong Kong, where I used to live, Hanoi, where I've been 1,000 times, and we have a lot of friends there. It's hard. It's scary for me to think about just flying somewhere to film when I don't really know it very well already. We sort of have to do scouting trips first, just for the kind of videos that we want to make. I know Krabi reasonably well, not super well, but at least well enough that I'd be really happy to get down there and make a video or two. Hat Yai, I'd need to travel to see it and meet people and get the inside stories and figure out a plan before we go to film. All right. Albert Chow, what made you move to China in the first place? Would you ever do OTR videos more focused on Chinese food since you lived there for so long? And what made you move to Thailand? I'll answer the first part of that question because I need to kind of get through the list. But the first two parts of that question. So I moved to China. I actually just got done in the conclusion of the Noodle video script. And I don't know if this is going to make the final copy, but at least for now, as the draft says, I kind of tell that story about my first day there. So I had a girlfriend. I had no plans to ever go to Asia or China. It's just like, my passport expired. I was in Scotland for a little while in 2004, and that was my last trip overseas, if I remember correctly, before I went to China 5 years later. At some point in the middle, my passport had expired. I had a girlfriend who this is in the middle of the financial crisis, 2008 crisis, and she finished college and couldn't get a job. And so she decided to do a year teaching English in Asia. And it was just like, where can she find a job? She applied in South Korea. She applied in, I don't remember where else, and China. And she ended up getting placed in Shenzhen in China's south, which is a city I'd never heard of before. And, we agreed. My first reaction was, okay, well, we're going to break up. You're going to China, see you later. And we had one of those sort of, knockdown, drag out arguments that culminated in an agreement that we were going to try and make it work long distance, with the consideration that I had to come over to visit. So I then got kind of excited. Once I committed to doing it, it's like, well, I'm all right, China. I never thought that would happen. So I remember getting I had a friend. So Charlottesville, Virginia, where I'm from, is also the hometown of Rosetta Stone, the software. The guy who owns our local gym, ACAC, was the founder, co-founder, or whatever of Rosetta Stone. So I had a bunch of friends who worked for the software, and I got a free copy of Rosetta Stone, and I start trying to learn enough Chinese to get by, start going to the Chinese restaurants in my hometown. Because I was working in restaurants obviously at the time, and so my shift would start at like 4 p.m. So I would go to these Chinese restaurants. I'd practice speaking Chinese with the cooks. I would try all the food, real like good Chinese restaurants. Peter Chung, if you know who that is, the disappearing chef, like not General Tso's chicken. Although I do like General Tso's chicken. And yeah, so December 8th, I think 2009. So that's coming up on 15 years ago. I got on a flight to China with 3 weeks booked, and pretty much knew immediately, that this is where I belonged. I should be in Asia. I am like, the big thing for me, I was a terrible student. I never cared about school. I didn't really put any work in. I was always distracted. I was from the age of 15. I had a full-time job working in broadcasting. I always had something I was doing outside of the classroom, and school for me was something that was just like, okay, I got to get the piece of paper. I gotta just do the bare minimum required to survive. And I almost didn't even do that. And then coming to China was the first time that I remember just looking around me and being like, I want to understand everything. I just want to learn. And I never felt that before, of like this desire to learn, and that was what I felt like when I came to, within minutes of being in China, like within minutes of being there, it was this overwhelming feeling of, there's a whole world out here that I do not understand. And I've spent my life in an area that I understand extremely well. And all of a sudden, what happens next, I have no idea. And that was really interesting and exciting. And so 3 weeks turned into what's now 15 years. Would I ever do OTR videos more focused on Chinese food? I struggle with that because I don't know how I feel about the idea of, if I was walking around with a cell phone filming, then yeah, I'd consider doing a trip to China. I didn't leave with the desire, 13 years was enough. I have my amazing memories. I regret nothing, almost nothing about my time there. I was there at the what I consider to be the most amazing time. There was a while when I was in China, I thought that was the best place in the entire world to be. That time is not now. I don't want to necessarily ruin my, amazing memories of China by going back and finding it as different as it is. And slowly have convinced a lot of my closest friends in China to move down here. So on a personal level, I don't know how I'd feel at this point about going back. And on a professional level, it's not the best place to walk around with a camera crew, when you have, I think it would be, even though I speak Chinese, it's a little bit more restrictive in terms of what are you doing as a foreigner, walking around with professional camera gear. So I think that would be something that would be a consideration. Oh, Gary Butler, the Roman cook. Good evening. That was probably quite a long time ago, but I'm rambling. Okay, Vpool asks, what do you eat on days you're not shooting videos? Good question. So it used to be a more interesting answer. For a long time, me and Daria would just like get out and explore every day and just eat everything that we could find. Writing, as the videos have gotten longer and I'm just like becoming a vampire and, in my little cave where I'm just writing all day, I survive. And I hate to say it because it's embarrassing, but just the nature of having to, work 100-hour weeks on trying to get these videos out. I eat a lot of delivery food. My go-to, finding out that Thailand's great. A lot of things deliver, even places you wouldn't expect. Polo fried chicken is a go-to. The Isan restaurant with the amazing crispy garlic on top of the chicken. Polo fried chicken is a go-to. I mentioned 100 Mahaset from Chef Charlie. His rice bowls are a game changer in the Bangkok food delivery game. Eat some foreign food. I try and stay healthy. We get the occasional salads delivered. I do cook at home from time to time, but embarrassingly little, considering we've got a pretty good kitchen at the house, and we're in range of so many amazing ingredients. I just don't really have time to do it. Chinese Kiwi says, I'm guessing your sriracha video was the first one to go viral. What was your reaction to that? And by the way, let me interrupt this and say, because I'm just kind of plowing through questions, for everyone who's online watching this or watching this later, thank you so much, especially our Patreon supporters, but all of you, thank you for what this is when, and I'm going to digress and then I'll come back to the question, I promise. In the beginning, and this actually fits this question because it's about going viral. In the beginning, we'd have no viewers. I'd work like just, kill myself on a video. there are videos we've made that I've done hundreds of hours of work on and never even went online because I was just never quite happy enough with it. And like being such a perfectionist about this, and just doing the work. And sometimes you'd put a video up and like 20 people would watch it in the first day. And but that never bothered me, honestly. Like, I think about myself and what I watch on YouTube, and like there's not that many channels that I actually watch, and there's very few channels that are making I'll turn that annoying sound off. There's very few channels that are making content that I am willing to commit, half an hour or an hour of my time to watch. Like, I consider my time to be valuable. It's every minute I'm watching something is a minute I'm never going to get back. And I don't just scroll through randomly and click on a half-hour video and watch something unless it's really good and really captures my attention. And so 20 people watching our video was still incredible. It's like, those are 20 people who are choosing to spend their time, which they'll never get back, watching something that we made. And I was incredibly thankful for each person who was watching, even when very few people were. I mean, I know this sounds like a cliche to say, but I really mean it. Like, in the early days when we first started out, I still never really looked at it as, oh, this isn't worth it, there's not enough people watching. Daria might have, because she was sustaining us on her income. She might have been a little bit more sort of interested in us getting more views. But I never really looked at it that way. For me, it was just like, even one person watching the video who's making the choice that out of everything that they could be doing with their time, they want to invest it in this, that was really special. And that's something I still appreciate, and I don't really view our videos as numbers, like, oh, it has 100,000 views or 500,000 views. It's like, this is just a collection of individual people who are making the choice to watch, and that's incredibly gratifying and really cool. So thank you, to all of you for that, and for watching me ramble, for 41 minutes, and we are just getting started. So question was, I'm guessing your sriracha video was the first one to go viral. What was your reaction to that behind the scenes? Came here from the sriracha videos, stayed for storytelling and deliciousness. It was not actually the first. So viral has different meanings depending on, what you've experienced to that point. Back when we were getting 20 views on a video, the American fried rice one got 7,000. And again, the YouTube algorithm still hadn't found us. So that was through Reddit. It got shared on r/documentaries and went to the top, like number one, to the point that I was getting friends from back home calling and saying, your video just showed up on my Reddit homepage. And so that was, we'd never had a video that had been more than maybe 400 views at that point. And that one went to 7,000. And I remember I was in Laos, me and Daria were sitting at a bar in Vientiane, where she was that wasn't for a marathon. We were just there. We were just visa. Yeah, we just officially set up our business so we could give ourselves visas when we had to leave the country. So we're sitting in Vientiane at a bar, and I upload that video and make it public. And then, a couple hours later, I'm checking, on the app, and I see it's got like 200 views. Then I check again, and it's 250 views and like 400. And that was so exciting. We went, I think, that took us from 400, and I remember this is how meaningful it was. I remember this. It went from 499 subscribers to 700 in about 2 days. And now, that's like, again, the scale changes as the channel grows. Now that's an hour. But back then, that was like, we'd been 4 months and we just almost doubled, the amount of subscribers we had from this one video. That was insane. That was super cool. And I remember even telling myself back then that as the channel grows, I won't lose sight of how, that should still be exciting. Just seeing a video kind of perform well is a really cool feeling, and I'm glad I got to experience it. And yeah, you never get to feel it for the first time twice. So that was a really special one. And the actual first one to go viral almost ruined the channel, and I say this with love and respect. But that was the Burmese video. So the one we did on Burmese food in February of our second year. So we launched in August. So this is now pretty much exactly 6 months in. So pretty much exactly half a year after we launched the channel, the video on Burmese food, that hit the algorithm in Myanmar, and it just took off. And that one went from like 3,000 views to 250,000 views in about a day. And that was like, and it was all in Myanmar. And that was like, watching the counter go up was, but when I say it almost killed the channel, that, the way the YouTube algorithm works is it tries to make a profile of who your target viewers are and who it can recommend them to, who your video should get recommended to. So this, the algorithm for 6 months hadn't really known what OTR was, because our we hadn't had enough viewers to give it enough data. And then all of a sudden, YouTube's internal computer is like, oh, I see, it's a Burmese channel. And so for the next few videos that we put out, I remember I was just like, all right, we're a big channel now. This is gonna take off. And then the rest of the next video we put, whatever the next one was that we put out, the next few that we put out, were only getting recommended to viewers in Myanmar who were like, I don't care about that subject. And so yeah, that it took a while to kind of retrain the algorithm. And then it was the one we did on the oldest restaurant in Bangkok. That one was when YouTube sort of figured out, okay, I see, it's kind of Thai food. And that video did well. And simultaneously, it boosted the Sriracha video. And that never really stopped growing. And those two kind of side by side was what kicked off the channel's ultimate growth. That was in May 2023. So that would be now 8 months in, 9 months into the channel, when it really started to kind of gain an audience that would grow consistently. So yeah, that's the inside baseball story of how the channel kind of grew in the very beginning. I don't want that to in any way sound like I'm not appreciative of those viewers of the Burmese food video. I will fully and completely say that the viewers in Myanmar made this channel reality. It took it from being a tiny channel to something that had viewers. I have such an incredible affinity and love for the people of Myanmar and how amazingly supportive. We still see the videos we've done on Burmese culture and food shared on lots of Burmese platforms. It's like I'm so excited to finally get a chance to go there when the war ends, or when we have a safe chance to do it. But yeah, I feel personally incredibly connected to the people of Myanmar thanks to that connection of that first video and what we've done since then. So yeah, thank you. If anybody's watching from there or from the overseas diaspora, let me keep scrolling through. We got a lot of, I promise when the chat's over, I'm going to go through, there's a lot of messages of greeting and, and this is so cool and meaningful, but I don't really have time while I'm trying to answer questions to read these carefully. So when this is over, I'm going to go through and read the ones that don't end with a question mark. I promise I will devote time to them, and every message will get read. Jesse Hughes says there's a restaurant that serves king cobra pad kapow just outside of Suvarnabhumi. Any thoughts on this? I don't get shocked by food. I don't like the idea of food being, like, I don't know, the idea of selling food as a, oh, this is crazy, come see this crazy thing. There are channels that I just refuse to watch because they kind of play up that whole like, oh, look how weird this is. And to me, like, that's not what food's about. Food's about love and sharing and family and tradition. And, so it depends. I don't know this restaurant. Maybe it's something that is an old family tradition. If so, cool. No issue with king cobra pad kapow if it's delicious. But if it's something that's just intended to be a shock value, yeah, I have no time for that. The snake as a food is very much a longstanding tradition in southern China. There's still restaurants in Hong Kong because of kind of public pushback. They're not as front and center as they used to be. It used to be in Hong Kong that you'd see signs for them and you'd have, people out front. And now you don't. Now you have to know where you're going. But yeah, there are restaurants where the specialty is snake and you eat the meat and you can look up how this works. I don't want to disgust people if you're not prepared for what I would say otherwise about the drinks they give you to consume with it. But yeah, I've had it. It's not my favorite protein, but I don't have any judgment towards people who eat it. I would much rather have a snake in a bowl of soup than a snake anywhere else in my house. Let me see what else we have. Can we see the dog? They're sleeping. I'll get him in here in a couple of minutes. Blanca, come. Well, she'll wake up. We'll get him here in a little bit. All right. So let's see what else we have in terms of. Oh, Daria's bringing Blanca over. When I'm editing, we'll sit here and edit. Hi, Blanca looks decidedly unhappy to be here. You woke her up from a good nap. Sorry, Blanca, you can sleep. When I'm editing, and Boris and I will do our edits usually from this table. Blanca will, she likes to be involved. And so she'll come and we pull up an extra chair for her so she can sit and just feel like she's a part of the conversation. Vango is in the middle of chewing on her paw on the carpet. She's a little bit less enthusiastic about being on camera, but I'll get her over here before this is done. Okay, Blanca, you can go back to your nap. I'm sorry. This is Blanca. She's turning 9 soon. She's a Beijing dog. Her first language is still Chinese. So where else are we? If anybody else has any questions, send them up. Can you do a video with Hanuman Aspler, maybe a visit to 3 trees? Yeah, maybe one day. I'm sure there would be a reason for some kind of collaboration. I'd like to know his story. That would be an interesting sort of. I've never met him. I think I follow him on Instagram. But yeah, next time I'm up north, we'll certainly be in contact. And I think okay, so I'm almost to the bottom of these questions. We have some more on Instagram and some more from the channel page that I need to get to. But yeah, I think I've almost caught up on questions. Feel free to send any more in if you want to, because I'm having a good time. I don't mind sticking around for a while. I'm in no hurry. Earth Camper says, you got your pet dogs from China. We moved to Bangkok because Thailand was the only country that would let us bring our dogs from China. Blanca was, she's a very expensive dog. She's Japanese Spitz. What we think happened was she was a gift to some, wealthy family in Beijing that didn't want her. They chucked her in the street. I had a restaurant, and she would show up and beg for food outside. And she was a puppy. She was probably 6 months old at the time. Quick story on Blanca, actually. This was, so we realized she'd been abandoned, and I immediately was, I don't know why. I have no idea why this was, but just right away I was like, okay, this is my dog. This is my dog now. I'm not going to try and find her a home. I want to keep this dog. And I had a girl who was my manager, working for me as a manager at the restaurant, who had dogs at home. And Christine, she agreed to foster Blanca while I got my house dog proofed and ready for having a dog. And so Christine got online while she was watching Blanca. She was trying to figure out. She's a very she's a very interesting looking dog, and she was a puppy. We didn't really know how big she would be in the end. And so, Christine's looking up what kind of dog could this be, and she calls me, and she's just so excited. She says, you won't believe it. That's not a dog. That's a Siberian fox. And she starts sending me pictures of Siberian fox cubs. Yeah, that actually looks like a Siberian fox. So then I start researching. There's 500 of them in the entire world. And I'm reading all about Siberian foxes. And so we get her a couple of days later, and I bring her to the vet on my street. And this is a very China story. If you've never been to China, this is a classic China story. I bring the dog to the vet and to get her, her first checkup and her first shots. And the vet says, what kind of breed is it in Chinese? And I say, it's not a dog. It's a Siberian fox. And the vet just kind of looks at me, and he takes her and he just slaps her. And she barks, and he goes, nah, it's a dog. And so that was how we found out that Blanca was a dog. Vango, the other one. Vango, come. Vango was a COVID edition. Me and Daria were in some dog rescue group chats on WeChat in China. Come, Vango. She's a little bit less enthusiastic about being up here. Sorry, Vango. Just a quick hello. And so we were in a couple of dog rescue group chats on WeChat, and there was a picture of this one. who apparently had been found on the street, severely injured when she was a puppy in Shenzhen. And somebody brought her to a vet. The vet fixed her up, but it's, in China, a lot of people want dogs as decorations more than as pets. So because she was injured, thank you, Van Gogh. Sorry, because she was injured, no one wanted her, and so she actually ended up sitting in a cage for 3 years. And then it was COVID, and the vet was going to close, and they had to find something to do with her, or she wasn't going to be kept around. And I was at a business banquet in Guangzhou, and if you've been to China for a business dinner, that means like just an ungodly amount of alcohol, and I'm just blind drunk, and Daria sends me the picture and story of this dog, and I just adopt her on the spot. I just send a message to the vet. I said, we'll take her. Next morning, I get a phone call from the vet who says, what time are you going to come pick up your dog? And I said, what dog? But that was how we ended up with Van Gogh. We call her Van Gogh because she's like Van Gogh, the artist. She's missing one of her ears. So, okay, I think I need to catch up on questions. Where were we? Oh man, no. So, be careful what you ask for. I asked for some more questions, and we got them. So where were we? Pardon me for just a second. Just like imagine the Jeopardy music playing while I scroll back through and figure out where I left off. I am completely lost. Almost getting there. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, there's a lot that I haven't caught up with. So how do you keep your weight with all the food you eat in restaurants? I guess it's probably a parasite. If I had to guess, I don't know. I try to work out. I haven't been very good about it. I need to get better about it because I have to see myself on video. There's nothing worse than just like having to watch yourself on video, especially like I can't imagine anything that's more like people think, oh, this is cool. I get to do this. I get to eat some amazing food and make content like this, but the trade-off is I have to see myself. There's nothing more gruesome than 4K HD video of yourself eating noodles all the time. It's not my favorite thing about the channel, but I have to see myself, so I need to try and stay reasonably fit. Max Vidernikov, I guess watching from Russia. Max, we need to catch up sometime. Max says, have you tried cow soy? Covered that a little bit earlier in the video, in the live stream, but yes, I love cow soy. Really wish I could find a good version in Bangkok. But yeah, if anybody ever goes back to Chiang Mai and needs recommendations, I've been to all of them. One day we'll film up there. I'm in Australia. Here we can't get any egg roll wrappers. Have you ever come across them in Bangkok? That's a question for Chris and Steph from Chinese Cooking Demystified. They know all the secret spots for where to get really good Chinese ingredients here in Bangkok. I don't personally know. Any plans for exploring fine dining, the fine dining aspect in Thailand? Yes, I don't know if we'll do it here first, or I have a friend in Kuala Lumpur who we're going to film this with. I really am interested in doing Daria used to work for a 3 Michelin star chef, Christopher Costow from California, one of the world's great chefs, and so I have a lot of friends who are in that 3-star level fine dining. It's such a different universe. It's not even the same. It's like there's Michelin cooking and, normal cooking. And I'm not saying that Michelin cooking is better, but it's different. It's a different job. It's a different, like your goals are different. Your processes are different. And I think exploring that and doing just a day in the life of a cook at one of these restaurants is a video that I really want to do. Riley at Canvas has been really, it's my favorite fine dining place in Bangkok, has been really, kind to offer us the chance to do something with all access there. I'm sure Charlie at Wanayu could. Here's the issue with doing fine dining, a fine dining story. So just checking on the dogs. The issue, I'm going to talk as if there's no live stream going on. Can you check on Van Gogh's paw? She keeps kind of chewing on it. It's like she has something stuck maybe in her pad. There's a thing like, I'm going to just, whatever, I'm live. I'm going to throw it under the bus. Son, the famous restaurant that's 2-star Michelin. When we moved to Thailand, that was one of our first meals. Like, let's do a special occasion dinner. And it's such a hard reservation to get. But I had a connection, and we got a table, and I just remember like being so let down, not by that restaurant. Their processes were great, and I'm sure it would be an amazing meal for anybody who's not, you know, living here. The problem is, I don't think Thai food is conducive to fine dining. If we did a video on fine dining, it would be on something like, like Canvas, because it's not Thai food. It's just food. That's whatever Riley wants to make using local ingredients, because it's Thailand and the best ingredients are going to be Thai stuff. That to me is what fine dining should be. It's using the best ingredients and just cook food. But Thai food, to do something where you're showing, if we're going to do it in Thailand, a fine dining exploration of Thai food, I don't think it works personally. I think you lose the character of what Thai food really is. You can't make what's supposed to be so just like incredibly layered and fascinating, and just these big flavors, and you lose the soul of it when you try and make it elegant. And I don't think that that's any indictment of any chef in particular. I think that Asian cuisine in general really doesn't lend itself to, with the exception maybe of Japanese, it doesn't really lend itself to fine dining. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's worse. It means, in my opinion, it means that it's great. That it's not supposed to be eaten in an elegant way. But I don't really want to do something about, like, being here in Thailand, about Thai food in a fine dining context, because if I was being honest, I don't like it. I don't think that that's the right presentation for Thai food. I think somewhere in the mid range. When we already mentioned 100 Mahaset, I like Sri Chat, although it's so popular now, it's not quite what it once was. You're never disappointed with a meal at Lake Supanaga. That level of kind of whatever. What would you call that? Casual fine dining, upscale casual, that works. That's a really cool way to present Thai food with great ingredients. But once you get above that and you're trying to do these steps of elegant presentation on food, I don't think it works with Thai food. What do you do in Thailand? Are you working as a chef? No, I'm a YouTube host. Jody Mack says, thank you for working on the Isan series. The info was amazing. Was it difficult to research? Well, the only Isan video that we've done so far was on the story of Isan food as it exists in Bangkok. And that was easy to research because it was so recent. There are still people who lived it. You can talk to people who were here that remember the 1940s and 50s when, the Isan migrants began to set up those first restaurants. Research is a lot easier when it's in living memory than when it's not. I haven't yet explored doing a video that's in Isan, and I can't speak to how easy or difficult that research is going to be. But research is never really easy. Let's see. Hey, Adam, with your last name, do you have a Dutch heritage? Well, ironically enough, the answer is yes, but not on my father's side. We have some Dutch. As far as I know, I'm not really good at genealogy. We have some Dutch on my mom's side, but that name's not Gottschalk. Gottschalk, from what I know, is a Bavarian name originally. I do have German ancestry. My dad was from Brussels, Belgium, or he was born in Belgium, but you trace his side of the family back far enough. They're French and German. All right, let's see what else we have here. Oh, Chinese Cooking Demystified is online. Meow to you too. You might have, if you joined us later, you might have missed my soliloquy about you guys and how important you were to this channel right when we started the live stream. But thank you, Chris and Steph, and I'll hopefully see you for happy hour tomorrow. Will you do more food tour collaboration videos with other YouTubers to help getting the word out? The Gary Butler one was fun. Absolutely. Also noticed Ellis WR in this chat earlier. I don't know if he's still stuck around. I don't know why anybody would still want to watch me talk. We're more than an hour in, but Ellis, if you're still online, I'd love to do a video with you. Yeah, I mean, again, there's so many people who know so much more than I do about places, and the more I can meet people who spend their time exploring, the happier I am. I just, email me, otrbkk@gmail.com. I'm not giving away any secrets. That's on our channel page and on our website. You just send me a message. Anybody who wants to do a video who has something interesting that you want to show. I got reached out to recently by that doesn't feel like correct grammar. I'm going to go with it. By a 70-year-old gentleman who's a tour guide in Bangkok who got connected to me, who his passion is the American doctor who introduced King Rama IV to American cutlery. And he's spent his life as a tour guide showing around the sites and houses and history of this one individual. And he said, I really just want this guy's like, he's just so one track on the story of this one person. And yeah, I'm going to find his most recent message. So we traded contacts, had a meeting with him. This is Dr. Bradley that I'm talking about. Interesting figure in Thai history. And he says, would you want to do a video? Here's how I've spent my life's work researching this guy. And my answer is absolutely. Yes, of course. You know so much more than I do. This is a subject that I know nothing about. Like, let me just give you the camera for a day. Tell me what you know. That's fascinating. So yeah, anybody who has some expertise in something, I'm very open to collaborating or just, meeting up with them. Hey, Adam, viewer from Northeast Thailand. Do you have any plans to do any food expeditions there soon? Yes, covered this a little while ago in the live stream, but a couple of trips to Isan, most likely before the end of this year. Road trip, hopefully with Chef Charlie Kader from 100 Mahazet. And Dari is running the Nakhon Ratchasima Marathon. So we're going to film up there in Korat in November. That I would say is pretty close to solidified. What else do we have? Did 100 Mahazet Ekamai reopen or is it permanently closed? I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't show up on my Grab delivery anymore. So we order from the other location when I'm working at home. Oh, John Kleinman says, can't hear your aircon. Well, good. Where did I just put the remote? Okay. Aircon back on. All right. Let's see. Shout out to Joel Bruner. Saw a clip of one of his videos in your Phuket video before you went to the Georgian restaurant. Yeah, Joel, we were actually in the same city at the same time when I was just in Indonesia with Daria and her family. And I tried to link up and just meet up off the channel. That's one of the guys I think does really good work. All right. When do we get some Chiang Mai videos? I don't know. Thought about maybe doing it this month. Boris was going to go up there for another project. Boris does these so Boris and Dennis, the two guys who are my partner producers, and videographers. Dennis is based in Rayong, and so we traveled together when I'm filming out of town. I hopefully, if he's available, bring Dennis along. He's an amazingly talented guy. Super fun to work with as well. But because he's not in Bangkok, we just do stuff outside the city. He's the one that you would have seen in the video from Nan, which if you haven't watched that, that's one of my favorite ones we ever did. Boris, when he's not doing OTR stuff, he's like filming music videos. That's his main project. He has a lot of stuff he works on, but music videos. And so Boris was supposed to be on a shoot in Chiang Mai, and I was going to come along and film something that got pushed back. But if he's already going to be up there next month, I'm going to fly up and we'll make a couple of videos. Oh man, it's been a while since I've just spoken for an hour and 8 minutes nonstop, but we still have some questions, so I'm going to keep going. Thank you for sticking around or watching us or joining us, and I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here as long as it takes to get through some more questions. It's okay. Thank you for Daria's offering to refill my water. I still have plenty. Good evening. Catching this late. Did you answer the question already if you'll be in Bangkok long term? Clinton, yes, I did. Yes, I did. We're going to be here for a couple more years beyond that. I don't really know. Bjorn says, are visa runs still a thing? Yes, but not for us. Filming anywhere is a risk. And so we have to do it legally. So we started a company. So we're here very legally. And that's like our company, the scope of it is making OTR videos. And so that we thankfully don't have to do visa runs. P. McIntyre asks, will Daria be running in the Bangkok Marathon in November? Daria will be running in the Bangkok Marathon in November. It's such a bad marathon. It's like, that's the one that starts at midnight, right? Daria just says from the other room, it starts at midnight and it goes along the highway. I think that one might be a pass. Let's see what else we've got. Quickly, I'm going to take a break from these. I have a couple questions that were sent in on YouTube as messages from view. Actually, we've already kind of answered these from other people. So yeah, let's go back to this list. Those questions ended up being repeats. As a foreigner, how do you request a dish as Thai spicy in such a way that vendors actually believe you? My partner and I love spicy food. The more chilies, the better. You go to a restaurant more than once. Yeah, it's hard. Even speaking in Thai, my Thai is not very good, but it's good enough to be able to at least sell the idea that I want food that's Thai spicy. It's a risk. You most likely won't get it at the first time, but when you start going back, I think that like building trust with a food vendor is the best way to get the good stuff. And maybe there's a saying, if somebody wants to tell me, I'd love to hear it. But maybe there's in Chinese you say "tuma tila," and that's an expression that foreigners don't really know, which is just like the local way in Sichuan food of saying just like murder me with spices, and so maybe there's an equivalent local slogan saying in Thai that I don't know, but typically the answer is you just get to know the cook. The third, fourth time you go to a restaurant, they see you, they know that you can handle, or just go for khao gang. They can't dumb down the heat of something that's already been made. So if you really want spicy Thai food, the safest way is to go to a khao gang vendor. That's like, then you're getting what everybody else is getting, and I love that. Okay, scrolling through the questions. In your time researching and trying different Thai regional foods, what do you think is the most overlooked regional cuisine within Thailand? Interesting question. The two answers that I would have would be, well, okay, I'll tell you what the first thing that pops into my head is coastal central south, specifically Chanthaburi. That's just a different universe. That's like, there's it masaman curry using young durian as an ingredient, salads with like peanut brittle and barracuda, lots of really unique sort of Chinese Thai stuff. Like Chanthaburi is a fascinating place that has a really unique and interesting food culture that is just in like that one little kind of corner of the Central Coast. That would be my first reaction answer. I think that the definition of what's Thai, like the Burmese Yunnan Chinese food that is in like Mae Salong and way up north. We did a little segment on that in our video at Suvarnabhumi, the airport, which was like, those are the people that came to Thailand by way of Myanmar, who were the anti-communist guerrilla fighters. It's thousands of people from a couple of battalions. They're called the Lost Battalions, that were fighting against Mao's forces, and they ended up taking refuge in Myanmar when they got pushed back over the line. The Burmese didn't really want them there, and they were living in the jungle. And then Thailand had a problem with the communist insurgency in the north, and the government gave the people of the Lost Battalions the right to permanently settle if they would fight on behalf of Thailand. And so they did. And this is, if I remember right, we're talking now about like 1970s. And that was kind of the genesis of the Golden Triangle. That was how the drug smuggling started, was in that region. And a lot of those people were part of it. And, and that's a really fascinating sort of subculture. But you see some really cool and interesting dishes that are very unique within Thailand. But I don't know that I would call it Thai food. But yeah, the far northwest and Chanthaburi in the central coastal south, that would be my answer to that question. Okay, sorry if I'm scrolling past anything interesting. I'm just only reading things that have a question mark at the end, and I'll go back and, oh my goodness, wow, I haven't even caught these. I'm now getting back to where I left off earlier. We have a long way to go. Dari, do we have anything with any caffeine? Do we have anything with caffeine? We have coffee. Can you make me a coffee, if you don't mind? Sorry. Sorry, if you guys all get bored and want to turn this off, I totally understand, but I'm going to keep plowing through some questions at the moment. Thank you for watching and being here online with us. I'm going to just keep going for the moment while I'm trying not to just go cross-eyed. When I run out of steam and I start not being able to follow my own train of thought, I will stop. Can you talk a little bit about your research process? Okay, cool question, and I'm happy to take this one on from Historical Foodways. So there you go. You know, so I'm going to start with the kind of general theory of it, which is I'm constantly meeting people who will say, like, I'm so impressed with, you know, the research and all the research you guys are doing. It's not that hard. It's not as much as you might think it would be. It's a lot, but it's not, you know, really. So Daria is the last line of defense for our videos before they go online. She's the only person usually who sees it, other than me and the producer. Once we finish the final edit, before we do the final edit, you know, and sometimes she'll catch things and she'll be like, you know, that bored me. You lost me. One of her main things is you know, the history stuff that I like to put in. I start with everything. So I have a big library of books. You know, I'm a big believer in college dissertations, not because that's a great place for information, but because it's a great place for citations. So if you find somebody who's written, you know, about a subject that I want to learn about, just look at their list of citations, and that gives you a starting point for what you want to read. And basically what I'll do is I'll just everything from online, from books, from papers, from whatever, I will make a document of, you know, hundreds of pages of long of copy and paste or just quickly written notes. And then I'll kind of narrow that down to the stuff that feels interesting. And then I'll do actual researching and fact checking on those subjects once I figured it out. But going back to the Daria subject, like what she'll usually tell me if I go too far, because I have all these facts and I want to jam, my instinct is always to jam them all into the video. But what she says is, like, you know, when there's too much, you know, the names run together, the dates run together, the stories run together, and it gets really hard to follow. And you know, what you really want is a couple of things to tell your friends the next day. You know, you go out for a glass of wine the next day and you say, hey, I heard this really interesting thing, you know, and that is what I'm looking for, you know, is I want to find these things that are cool facts. I want to find what grabs me. I want to see in a book what makes me fold the page down, because that's a cool fact. And then, you know, so our history stuff for the research will start with just a gigantic raw list of all the stuff I can find on the topic that we're covering, and the topic that we're covering. And then from that gigantic list, the first thing I'm looking for is not how to sequence it. It's what's cool, what's interesting. Like, what are things that I think are really cool facts that I am excited to learn about, and that I didn't know, or that I think most people watching might not know, that fits into the story. And then, you know, you have to verify, you have to fact check it. And sometimes that means that what you think is a really cool thing isn't provable. And if that's the case, I can't use it. But once we confirm that, you know, the things that I find are, and I'm researching, like, let me just quickly backtrack and say the research, this whole raw data, that's not usually in English. Depending on what we're covering, you know, there's a lot of Google Translate is an amazing thing, you know, and you know, and just pointing a phone at a book or whatever it is. But anyway, I have all this database of stuff, and then we'll find the interesting things. Like, what are the coolest facts that I can find about this subject? And then writing about it becomes just giving it context. You know, just dropping in a fact is nothing by itself, you know. And so how do I make it interesting? Well, what set this fact up, you know, and then I'm just taking this one little tiny piece of history and giving it the context of where it happened, when it happened, you know, what makes it a cool fact that I think is interesting, and how does it fit into our story? And so it's very targeted. It's not really, you know, it's not as, you know, it's not as intense. You know, when I overdo it on research, it hurts the video. You know, the idea is this history stuff that we put in should make the video more fun to watch, not more difficult to watch. So, you know, I try and not overdo it as much as possible. So, all right, let's keep on going. So if not for Blanca could OTR have, if not for Blanca, could OTR have been, say, a Burmese food channel for Blanca? I see. So yeah. Oh, thank you. So if not for Blanca, would OTR have been a Burmese food channel? I don't really know. I don't really know how to answer that. I'm sorry. We're like, as in, where would we have lived if we had left China and been able to bring the dogs anywhere? I don't know. Like, OTR happened because of a very unique set of circumstances that were with us living in Thailand. I don't know if those same circumstances would have been repeated anywhere else. I'm gonna have this coffee is steaming. I should give it a split second. But how do you not get overwhelmed by the sheer number of restaurants and street food stalls in Bangkok? This is from Dama. By the sheer number of restaurants and street food stalls in Bangkok alone that all have a unique story to tell. You know, I in some ways, the sheer number of places that have a story to tell makes this viable. You know, we could never really run out of ideas, but it's hard. Like, I can't just, I don't know. I don't really know how to, you know, we get so lucky with these stories. You know, I wish, I like the videos that I'm barely in. I love some of my favorite videos are like the one we just did. Nobody saw Lonely Planet video. I think that's good. The one on Le Dalat, the Vietnamese restaurant, the mussel noodles one. Those are the first two that come to mind like this. I know there have been more where we just let somebody tell their story. But we get lucky with these. Like, I don't, you know, the places like Santia Sok, these crazy stories that I knew before we started the channel, we've run through those already in Bangkok. You know, that's why I'm so desperate to get out and film elsewhere, because I do have some of these we can tell in other places. But like, yeah, in, you know, the Le Dalat one, they reached out to me, you know, and said, I want to tell you my grandmother's story. And I said, okay, I want to make a video about this. The one on mussel noodles we found from a Danish photographer who had a photo blog in Bangkok, and Darius saw it and saw his pictures of this gentleman, and that's how we found that story. It's so finding these people, you know, that's the biggest challenge that we have. I wish I had, you know, one of these stories I could tell every week. I would love nothing more than just to turn the microphone over to someone else and let them tell their story, like the one we just did in Nan, for example. Okay. So Reno Basque, what does OTR mean? It means I'm not good at naming things. When we first started the channel, this was not supposed to be me hosting all the time. I thought I would do some, but I had this first idea that it was going to be kind of just like, you know, different people who knew different things about different subjects. You know, let's all just kind of produce videos together. And so it wasn't going to be the Adam Gottschalk show. I never considered it like having my own name because I didn't really want it to be about me. So I had a list of kind of ideas for names, but you go back to my restaurants. I'm really bad at naming stuff. Like the last place I opened in China was called Keg Room because we took over the place because it had a big room for kegs. You know, literally, like I just suck at naming things. I'm just not good at it. And so, you know, OTR came from, on my list, I had On the Road. On the Road, it's kind of a weak name, but like On the Road was one of them. Off the Rails was an idea. I think Daria came up with, I can't remember, was it On the Record or Off the Record? Off the Record. So we're just kind of looking at this big list of names. What are we going to call the channel? And we had these three that all had the same initials. And I'm like, well, if we call it OTR, we don't need to decide. And the ridiculous thing was that, you know, we really didn't decide, because when we started this channel 2 years ago this week, I registered the YouTube account under OTR On the Road. Daria registered the Instagram account under OTR.offtherails. So we didn't even communicate with each other about what OTR actually stood for. So to this day, if you look at our YouTube and our Instagram, they have different names, and that was not intentional. That was just our own ignorance and mistake. So the apologies to anybody who's asked questions. The live stream just kicked me, I think, to the very end of the chat. So I'm going to have to start from the bottom and work my way back up. I don't know. This is my first time doing this. So forgive me. I'm most likely going to accidentally miss some questions. And I'm not going in order anymore. So I'm really, really sorry, but that's the easiest way for me to do this. Is it just kicked me to the end. So how do you find living in Thailand with dogs? This is like the teacher would say, hey, ask that. That's not a question to ask in front of the class. But I'm gonna answer it anyway. My partner and I have highly active spaniels, and worrying about them is one of the impediments in spending a few years in Thailand. I can't speak to Thailand in general. I can only talk about our own neighborhood. The biggest concern that I hear from people with dogs here is there's a lot of soy dogs, stray dogs that are outside. We're in an area where they're friendly, we know them, or they're not very many. Thai people are incredible with dogs. It's so nice, in China, there's a big kind of collective fear of dogs, which hopefully is changing. And but you walk your dogs and people kind of stay away. Here, our dogs are just everywhere we go. They're just everyone kind of runs up and wants to pet them. They've become friends with like the orange vest motorcycle drivers in our neighborhood. There's I don't want to say DOGPARK because if I say it, they're going to lose their shit right now. So let's just spell it out. But there's a lot of those. There's a dog swimming pool as well that we take ours to from time to time. Let's see what else we have rolling up. I'm asking this because it interested me. Do you consider doing an episode on Betong, a southern district in Thailand, famous for its Chinese influenced food? I don't know anything about Betong. Is that in Trang? Because if so, we are very interested in doing a story on the Chinese influenced food there, which is something I think is really fascinating. Do you have a favorite video or topic you've done so far, or one you enjoyed the research the most? Great question, and realistically one I probably should have prepared for and been expecting. So all right, when we started the channel, if you watch our first 3-4 videos, I am just straight up like cosplaying Anthony Bourdain. Like, I didn't know how to write, I didn't know how to do this. Like, my experience is as a sportscaster, and then for 15 years I was a cook. So like, now I'm writing these videos and I wanted them to be good. And I had this vision of what like a good video was going to look like, but I was writing in Anthony Bourdain's voice, not my own. And then, it's cringy for me. It's hard to go back and watch those first couple of videos because I really feel like I'm just, that's not me. And then I spent a few weeks there's the next few videos where I'm clearly trying to figure out what we are, what this is. Like, how are we going to do this? What is this channel? Who am I as a host? And so you have these videos where I'm kind of experimenting with like doing my history stuff, just standing outside talking to the camera, or sitting at a restaurant with handwritten notes that Daria is holding up underneath the camera, talking. And like, I was trying to kind of be a category that I didn't know how to be. Like, I want to make these cool documentaries on food, culture, and history. I want to show how people interact with each other. I want to have meaning behind these videos. But I felt like there was a formula that I had to find, and I had to get the right way to do it, or it wasn't really going to work. And I was, really, I can't say struggling. I'm proud of some of those early videos. There's a few that the Portuguese one is a really cool one from the early days, but none of them felt natural because I was trying to figure out how to do this, and I'm writing in a way that I was attempting to write something, but it wasn't organic and natural. Doesn't mean that the videos weren't something I'm proud of. We went to film the video on the history of curry puffs. And when we started that, I thought it was going to be another straightforward, okay, well, we heard that there's this town that invented curry puffs. So let's do this video, and I'm going to write a formulaic, the history of curry puffs, and we'll make it as good as we can. And then we got there, and it just devolved into this just insane adventure where nothing went right. Curry puffs are not from Saraburi or Muklak. And we just the trip kind of went off the rails, and to use that word. And the honesty of that story is not to try and force it into, well, but anyway, here's the history of curry puffs. The honesty of that story was like, we just went and found this crazy town that has this insane story about how they used curry puffs to brand themselves and stay alive, and when all the other small towns were going away. And I just thought, you know what, like, I don't know if I can swear in these live streams. Screw it. Like, I just remember thinking, like, you know what, I'm the one who's got to put all this effort into making these videos. I'm just going to write the way and I remember what I really wrestled with was, I had this sort of thought I kept coming back to in my own mind about this Peter Hessler book that he wrote on China, and how the highway system kind of changed everything and made all the young people leave the villages. And and that just sort of really spoke to me about our experience in Muklak. And so I remember just deciding at some point, when I was really struggling with how to write this video, I'm just not going to think about viewers. I'm not going to think about how to make a perfect video. I'm just going to write as I want to. And I'm just going to make my video, and I'm going to tell the story in a very personal way. And that was I'm so proud of that video. That was the first OTR video that feels like an OTR video. That was the first one where I think I found my own voice writing, and it gave me a lot of. I mean, again, nobody watched it back then. We had no viewers, but except like a couple of you in the chat, you know who you are. But like, and my immediate family. But that was watching that and seeing how well it came out, and feeling like for the first time, oh, this is a good video. I'm proud of this. That was one that I think I'll always come back to as being sort of the video that kind of made me know what I wanted to do with the channel, and feel free to write in my own voice, and just to do the videos that I wanted to do, and not really think about like trying to make them perfect, but just trying to make them real. And that was really liberating, doing that video. Since then, I don't know. I'm so like frazzled after talking nonstop for now 90 minutes. I'd have to go back through and look at our old videos. But yeah, the Le Dalat, when I go back and rewatch from time to time, I guess if my test is what do I go back and watch occasionally. Let me open up the channel page and just see what jumps out at me real quick. Pardon me if this just plays the little trailer sound in the background. The non-video we did recently is one that I really like. That's way up there for me as one of my all-time favorites. The 24 hours in Klong Toy market. That's a really incredible video that I'm just deeply proud of. And then I think probably ultimately, if I had to say the best one, fundamentally the best video we've ever made is the one in Sangklaburi, the Children of the Forest, Thai Myanmar border. That's ultimately that's the answer of what's my favorite video, and what's the one that I rewatch and feel really, really good about. Bjorn Pearson says, if you run out of stamina, trade places with Daria. Daria, you want to give me a 5-minute break to drink some coffee? In a little bit. She's it's not live, I promise. We're just recording this. We can edit it later. It's not live. Okay. Clinton says, feel free to skip. Would you speak a bit on the economics of OTR now that you're a big boy business? Has OTR replaced your pre-pandemic income, and are the producers owners of the channel? No, the channel is owned by me and Daria and the dogs, I guess. That is, and we have an investor who helped me just to get this started, because we had to sustain this for a while. So hat tip to Anand for helping out in the very beginning when we had to get this off the ground. That means the risk is ours too. So I went deeply into debt in the first year that we were doing this, paying the bills by the skin of my teeth. But has OTR replaced your pre-pandemic income? Yeah, I mean, again, I don't, without going too deep into it, it's a month-by-month thing. Last month was great. This month sucks. I don't know why the algorithm just really didn't help us with the Lonely Planet video. But again, I don't care. I'm not thinking about that when we make videos. I'm thinking about what's interesting to me. I love that video, whether or not anybody watched it. But yeah, it's a hit financially. It's getting there. It's definitely, let's say, my test is not, can I pay my bills? Because yes, I can pay my bills with the channel as it stands now. Massive thank you to our Patreon supporters. You have no idea. I remember last year, we'd been doing this channel for about 7 months, and there was a string of videos where I literally right before we would film, I would send myself whatever money was in our Patreon account, and that's the only way that I was able to afford to do the shoot. Um, the Hallmark video, I remember specifically being one of those. So Patreon has been an incredible help. So thank you to all of you. And the channel itself, my test isn't, can we pay the bills? It's at that point now where we can pay our bills, can pay my production, can pay our costs, can upgrade the equipment sometimes. That's why I don't have to use this old Blue Yeti mic, and I have this one for the real videos. But the thing that I'm thinking is, when will we be able to start affording travel? Because that's not cheap. It's multiple people, multiple hotel rooms, visas, excess baggage costs. I mean, the idea of traveling to shoot is the real daunting proposition of when will we be at the point where we can start to consistently month by month plan trips somewhere to film, while still being able to live. And we're getting there. We're getting there. When you start seeing that we're showing up in different places every month, or at least from time to time, I am. Then you'll know that I'm feeling really good about how things are going. I don't need money. I can, as long as I can pay my bills. Anybody who's lived an expat life can probably confirm that we're very used to running out of money all the time. It's just the nature of living an expat life, and it's just, we get used to it. I open a restaurant successful, cool, take the money, throw it right back in, let's do another one. And they both went bankrupt, fine, start again. There's I love that about Asia. There's in the US, and I'm not trying to denigrate my home country, I'm very proud of where I come from and had an amazing upbringing, but there's a thing in America that I find, and I've European friends feel the same way, where they're from, that you kind of have one chance, if you want to start your own business. If it fails, the costs of just simple things like licenses and taxes and insurance. If the business fails, you're in mountains of debt and you're spending the next 20 years pulling yourself out of it. And I could be wrong. Again, I haven't lived in the West in a long time, but that's the general feeling that I get. And what I love about living in Asia is the downside to it is there's not much government support. You're on your own. But the positive part of it is you're on your own. You want to do something, just do it. You can figure out the legality of it later. If you have an idea, just do it. And the startup costs are very low. There's a low barrier of entry for trying something. And that fosters this really interesting, kind of creative element where you are always kind of thinking. And, that was a big part of Chinese culture that I really took to, that, people are always sort of thinking, scheming of like, well, how am I going to make more money? What am I going to do? How do I leave my job and start my own thing? I'll start a little street cart, and then I'll upgrade my street cart to a bigger street cart, and then I'll get my little restaurant, then I'll get a bigger restaurant. And like, there's always this forward momentum, because if you fail, you can pick yourself back up again. You don't get yourself into credit debt, and like, you just, it's a little bit easier to be willing to take a risk when that risk isn't too. And I fully, trust me, understand that there are advantages to being a foreigner. The opportunities for, all else fails, go teach English, whatever it is. We have those chances that not everyone has. And I'm fully appreciative and aware of the opportunities that have come my way as a foreigner. But still, the culture of taking risks over here is I don't even know how I got on that topic. I'm just like when I had I host a talk show, and it was 3 hours a day, and I was by myself. So we did have occasional commercial breaks though, which that seems to make a difference. As a foreigner, do you feel the added pressure of more accurately telling the stories and history of people outside of your culture? And how would you describe your approach? I can't change the fact that I'm a foreigner. What I don't want people to think is that I'm Mr. Thailand. I'm very conscious of trying to not seem like somebody who's trying to make myself an authority on Thailand. This channel exists so that I can learn about where I am and I love the process of research, and I love the process of learning and understanding things. And the more videos we do, the more I start to feel like okay, now the picture starts to become clearer. I remember this other thing that we researched, and now it's faster to put the pieces together because I know a lot more than I did when we started. But one reason I want to film videos that are not just in Thailand, and one reason I keep doing these, like the one we're doing now, the history of noodles, is because I think the more focused our channel is, if it's only on Thailand, even though we're here in Thailand, then I think I run the risk of being sort of called out for, I don't want to say being an imposter, but like, I've been here for 2.5 years. We're not even 3 years in Thailand. We were here for 6 months when we started this channel, and we started this channel because we loved it here. And I'm a chef, and I'm so fascinated by these different influences in food cultures, and you know, and also I there's a subversive element to it as well, coming from China, where there was this huge wave of nationalism. That I find nationalism to be a really destructive thing, no matter what the country is. This whole "I'm better than you because I'm from here," and food is kind of the antithesis to that. Food is something where you don't own this dish. Like, I don't care what the dish is. That's not yours. There's elements of this that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for your connections to these other people or kingdoms or empires, or all of history. Kind of, if you really look at food, you see how people have interacted with each other throughout time. And telling that story is, to me, that is the battle against one country or culture or ethnicity being better than any others, because we're all connected, and you see it in food. And Bangkok's a great place to explore that, because Bangkok is such a melting pot, and Thai food is such a melting pot. And so that made this idea really exciting. But what I didn't want was to ever be, at least not anytime soon, to have people think that I was trying to put myself out there as a Thai food expert, or a Thailand expert. Like, I I'm fascinated by this country. I'm fascinated by the food. I enjoy learning as much as I can about it. I think I'm pretty good at research and writing, if I can humbly say that. But like, I do know Asian food and history, because again, I was a Chinese chef for a really long time. And I speak more than one Asian language, which makes research pretty easy. And yeah, like, this is something where I just, what was it? I'm getting to the point where I'm sort of, the questions are starting to run together. Um, do you feel more pressure as a foreigner telling the stories of the history and people? Not as long as I'm telling the stories of the history and people. If I'm telling stories about history and people, I have nothing to do with that. I just fact check and tell the story, or talk about the people and let them tell their own story. But when I start editorializing and I start trying to bring myself into these videos, yeah, I'm really conscious of not trying to come across as some condescending jerk who just parachuted in here 2.5 years ago and thinks he knows everything, because I certainly don't. Albert Chow asks, what kind of restaurants did you open in China? I know you mentioned an American diner at some point, but you've also said things about cooking lots of Sichuan food. I worked in Sichuan restaurants. I never opened a Chinese restaurant in China. Um, but I learned Chinese by working in Sichuan kitchens. I worked in restaurants in Hunan province as well. I worked in an American restaurant as a line cook when I needed a job when I first moved to China. For the restaurants that I opened, uh, two of them were Mexican. One of them I took over had been a Mexican restaurant, and I changed it to Filipino. So I did Filipino food at one of my restaurants. I did let's see, two American diners, two, let's call them gastro pubs, where we were doing craft beer. I had a brewery of my own, and which I wasn't making the beer, but we opened a brew pub, and then we did a concept where we were going to be the first bar in China that was going to sell only craft beer. And I partnered with a guy who was from a Michelin background, and we did kind of elevated bar snacks. I did a taqueria on the beach. It's kind of a surf shack beach bar. That place was so much fun. It got destroyed by a typhoon in 2018. Yeah, that was a heartbreaking day. 2018, 2017. I don't remember. 2018. And And yeah, there were a couple more, but I'm gonna keep moving because that's what comes to mind first. Uh, let's see. Did I reach the end of the? Would you explore the history of how other recent immigrants came to Thailand, how they established a food scene there, like the Nigerian one for the rice video or the Arab food that you like? Absolutely, absolutely. I would do that in a heartbeat. Um, I let's see. Uh, Sorry, just joined from South Africa. When are you coming to do the Africa trip that you mentioned before? Uh, Good question. This is the sad thing about having a YouTube channel like OTR, and there are no sad things about it. I love every minute of what I'm doing. This is a really cool thing to do. That I'm incredibly gratified. I feel like this is what I should be doing. I'm fulfilled with getting the chance to tell stories and learning things and making these videos. I like the process of making videos. I like sitting there next to Boris or Dennis and just editing. I love that. I love like taking this blank canvas and this just gigantic. It's like to me, it's like chiseling granite where you have this big block of 10 hours of footage, and how do we chop it down into a video, and you're just subtracting until you get there. There's never been a video that we've ever done where at some point I haven't thought, this is the one I can't do. It's going to fail. I can't make it. I can't figure out how to write this. And then you get there eventually. The downside to it is traveling without working. It becomes really difficult because it's like, if I'm not here, I can't work. And if I can't work, then we're just treading water, and we need to be kind of constantly making something. So if it used to be, I would love, like, me and Daria travel really well together. It's one of the reasons why we first kind of got together. And we, we would take these trips when we would have the chance. And now those trips are like us plus a producer, which is great. But yeah, I don't know that I'll be able to travel the same way and just kind of freewheeling, enjoy like another South African road trip without making it a filming trip. What was the most difficult thing about living in Thailand to adjust to? Well, keep in mind, I was coming from China. I think, and again, without preparing for this question, the first thing that jumps to mind is in China, you have a guy. You have a guy. I need something. I need a painting hung up. Call a guy. I need water delivered. Just text the guy. There's somebody for everything, and you just have a phone full of people who that you need something done. It gets done immediately. Thailand is a little bit more sabai, as the saying goes here. Here, like, oh, the roof is leaking. We'll fix that in a month. Like, oh, we ran out of water. Cool. The guy will come and deliver it next Tuesday. We had to learn to throttle down and take things as they come and not expect everything to be done immediately the way that it was in China. That was a really hard adjustment. What else was a difficult adjustment to living here? This is a pretty welcoming place. And again, we had this strange experience of moving here in the middle of COVID. So there really weren't very many tourists. Thai people would see you in the middle of the pandemic and they would think that you lived here. There wasn't the expectation that, like, you're a tourist. Hey, do you want to get in the tuk-tuk? It was more that, like, at the time, nobody was traveling anywhere. So if people would treat you as an equal, and that was a really good introduction. Yeah, this was an easy place to adjust to, with the exception of the basics of constantly going crazy, why things don't get done a little bit faster. But that's okay. It's good for the patients to adjust to that street. Let's see. Where am I running out of questions to answer? Other than Thai, what other cuisines are you interested in? All of them, any of them, any of them. Everyone has. It's hard for me to answer for places that I've never been before because I'm constantly surprised in a new place about the things that you find. I'll go anywhere, and I'm excited about the cuisine. How do you feel when people mention that your videos remind them of Anthony Bourdain? I don't even know how to answer that question other than there's a Bourdain-shaped hole in a lot of our lives, and I'm glad that we are able to fill a tiny fraction of that. yeah, he made food cool. That was the channel that was the show that we were weird. I was the weird guy. I thought food was interesting, and yeah, that was until Bourdain came along. Food was something that your parents would tell you don't if you don't be a cook unless you failed. That's the last resort. And then Bourdain made it cool. To be interested in traveling for food and to be a chef and yeah, he really sort of opened up the world for a lot of people, myself included. Is there Thai food that you are not? I'm back to the bottom of the list, by the way. Again, is there Thai food that you are not fond of? Sure. Yeah, there's stuff that I don't particularly choose to go for here, but my brain is turning to mush after 2 hours of talking to the camera. So let me think about that and come back to you about what would be something that I'm not terribly fond of. Is it only me, or is the picture a bit blurry? Fingerprints on the lens. I think this house is fogging up. I keep turning off the air conditioner because, if I can tilt the camera up for a second, this aircon, this is something else that I'd never really seen before we came here. That is like an industrial. In 2 seconds, this entire house is going to be just like a meat locker. And this is the low setting. There is no lower setting on my aircon, but it's like this is made for cooling down a warehouse. And yeah, it's a beast of an air conditioner. So I apologize if this looks a little bit blurry. It's a shitty computer. But hopefully the air conditioner, it's a little condensation. It's very, very, very humid in here. Let's see. Any other questions? If I missed your question and you want to get it in, ask at the bottom. Ask again now, because again, I'm getting thrown all over the place in this live stream. You guys this is so cool to me, by the way. Thank you so much for being so interactive. Daria asked me before we went on, she said, are you, what are you going to do if you don't get asked any questions? I said, we'll figure out something to talk about. Thankfully, that was not the case. Daria, do you want to, before we finish, do you want to come on and at least greet everyone? And while Daria is walking over here, Jim Pearsall, Chef Adam, will you cook for us? That's always been an idea, maybe to do. They don't get the joke. No, unless they watch the Patreon video. Oh. There was a joke in the Patreon video where Daria was, she has the tendency to just stare at herself on screen. And eventually we had to just kind of move her out of the frame because it was just like this face leaning in from the side. Just I don't still know where to look. All right, here's
old
look at me.
You missed one of my favorite questions, actually. Someone was asking if you're ever going to fight Bangkok Pat.
Fight?
Yeah.
If I'm going to fight Bangkok Pat?
Yeah, because he's a fan of cats, and he's basically like the other very successful YouTuber here. So someone asked twice about it.
So here's what I would say. Watch Bangkok Pat's channel. We're very badly framed. come slide into the middle. There's Bangkok Pat is working on something where he's doing kind of like a film noir story, and I may or may not make a cameo in that. So I'll fight over cow soy. Yeah, if you watch the video that Bangkok Pat did with us, when I make the cow soy video, I almost want to fly him with me up to Chiang Mai to see if I can change his mind. His hatred of cow soy. I love Pat. He's great. And see if you can pick. I am deeply disguised in costume in Pat's upcoming film noir crime mystery, but you'll see me make a cameo. Chris from Chinese Cooking Demystified may or may not be making a cameo in that as well. I think Patty Doyle is in it too. Let's see. If you could recommend only one. Oh, let me read the question from the beginning because I missed part of it. Big fan of the channel. Love popping on your videos. Super insightful and fun. If you could recommend only one book or source to learn about both. To learn about what both? To learn about. Oh, sorry. Continue with the next one. Thai cooking and culinary philosophy. What would that be? One book or one source to learn about Thai cooking, culinary philosophy. McDang's book. I mean, I guess we're probably talking about in English language. Yeah, I think I'll if I have to choose one book, it's what's it called? The Principles of Thai Cookery. I apologize if I got the name wrong, but yeah, Chef McDang's English language tome would be probably my answer. Somewhere. Daria's gonna check the bookcase. Daria, you can't. You just got on microphone. Don't just jump off straight away. You're looking for any excuse not to be here on camera. Any beer meetup? Sit down. Any beer meetups in the next 30 days? Sure. Yeah, I'll post something on Patreon. We can always do. Welcome back. Any questions for Daria, by the way, while she's on microphone? Because I have a feeling this is short-lived. Something tells me you're going to find a way to sneak out pretty soon.
Daria running videos. I have a Telegram channel of 70 people. That
I thought you just got up a little higher than
89.
89 people.
Yeah, but it's in Russian, so unfortunately.
So if you're in the Venn diagram of fans of Thai food, who also are into Russian language running channels
in Bangkok.
About Bangkok running
it's
scene.
Very niche.
If you're in that Venn diagram, then message for the Telegram link. Patty Doyle, Gary Butler did a live stream, turn into which Thai food vlogger would win in a fight. Did you ever see Anchorman or Anchorman 2? The big
The
fight
channels,
scenes.
yeah,
We should do that with all the. I had an idea about something like that. I had this idea a long time ago. I don't know how I would execute this, but how like I just wondered what would happen if we picked one subject, like just one. Pick a dish, green curry, and then you're nodding, and then just get a few, Thai food journalists together. I prefer journalists to vlogger, Gary Butler, Bangkok Pat, Mark Wiens, if he wants to lower himself down from the clouds and join us. We all just have such different Ellis and WR. If you make it back to Thailand, everybody kind of takes these different paths towards approaching a subject. I thought it'd be fun to kind of just like do a collaboration video, but we don't work together. We all just start in the same restaurant on the same day with the same subject and just see what everyone comes up with and how we all approach it differently. My vote is going to be for Bangkok Pat's being the most fascinating because he's just so such a wild card, and I love his videos. Daria, what is your biggest gripe, your biggest complaint about how I do the videos?
I don't have any. I mean, you work a lot. It's a full-time job. It's 24/7 full-time job. Probably after this coffee, especially that he's drinking, he's going to be working for the next 8 hours. And we are talking about 10 p.m. in Thailand right now.
But specifically maybe to the videos themselves, Daria is constantly telling me, she's my last line of defense, as I said earlier in the live stream about like when there's a lot of, what would be a good example? The Ayutthaya video is one of my favorite examples because of like after we finish the edit, I'll always show it to Daria, and she's very unfiltered and will tell me the truth about something that will, if she's not a food person, she's become a food person with me, but like she's not. This isn't a subject that she works in or researches or knows, and so. If I can hold her interest and attention, I assume that the video is good. And if I can't, then, I've done something wrong. And so what was the one we just did recently? I'll get to the Ayutthaya one in a second. It was one we did really recently where, was it Phuket? Was it? Oh, The Lonely Planet. Just the last one that we just did. Lonely Planet. Daria's watching with me after I thought the video was finished. And it ends and she's like, oh, that's the ending? And it just kind of ended with she's like, that was a little disappointing way for it to end. And so I was just like, shit. Okay, well, we're posting the video in a couple of days. Boris, are you free to film tomorrow? I need to write a new ending. And then we did, and it's 100 times better. The Ayutthaya video is another one that I credit you for, where there was a segment that I wrote leading into the part where we're walking around the ruins, which it was about King Narai the Great. And it was this really I tried to kind of write it as like a day in the life of what it was like in old Ayutthaya. And it just was so it's a lot of numbers and dates and names and, and it just, you were like, that lost me so much that I just glazed over. And so and Daria's specific suggestion was, she's like, I liked how in was it the coconut video where we just done recently before that? And I told a story about somebody where that was a cool way to kind of illuminate a place or a subject, was just through this one person's interesting story. She's like, is there anything like that about Ayutthaya? And I just immediately searching for that, found this guy who had this insane story of his life and how he ended up on IUT, and he wrote journals about it. And to me, that was a 100 times better segment.
Me again. If I had to filter you now, I'd say no.
Yeah, Daria has to keep me from just. I have a hard time shutting up. But yeah, that's kind of what I would say would be your.
Somebody also asked about Russian food. Forget what are their favorite Thai dishes. Oh, the classic pad Thai, something that is not spicy. So yeah, the easiest dishes that we also have back in the Far East of Russia, especially, and it's gonna be tom yum, which is not spicy tom yum, and pad Thai. That's why you see it a lot, especially in Pattaya and all the places, together with Russian food. So you'll have like some basic staple Thai, tourist Thai dish and Russian food.
Would you say that the Russian community in Thailand, which is massive, especially since the war, a lot of people fleeing mobilization coming here. So there's, big numbers of, and you're not necessarily always, that's not always your social group that you want to hang out with or other Russians. But, from the community that you're aware of and the people that you know, are they adventurous towards Thai food, willing to try Thai food any more or less than other groups of foreigners who I also would say is not,
Bangkok ones, yes. Pattaya ones and Phuket ones, usually there is a reason why they moved there, because there is a whole Russian community already there. It's the same with Tenerife and Miami and some other places in the world where there is a Russian community, and they don't really need to be adventurous. They don't need to explore outside of this community. It's just basically they just moved all their belongings to a different continent or to different country, but just stay there. So yeah.
Real quick, Adam Risick asks, Sai'oa or Saikrok Isan? Sai'oa. I think that's your answer too. But Thai sausages is a video we have to do at some point, because I'm a little bit obsessive about sausage culture. While you're still here with us, Daria, how did you get into running? Chinese Kiwi
I don't
asks.
have money for therapy, and that's basically the next best thing.
But the actual answer, how did you get into?
I'm a former professional skier back in Russia, and semi-professional skier, like a prodigy that ended up being a 16-year-old alcoholic. But but in Thailand you don't have winter, so that was basically like before in China.
Just to be clear, cross-country skiing. So more like running, not downhill.
The boring ones, not the alpine skiing. Yeah, and yeah, when you are in the south of China or in Thailand, unfortunately, that's the next best thing. So I started to run, and also therapy. Yeah.
How did we meet? I owned a restaurant. Daria was running a beer company, and
romantic.
came to try to sell me beer. She was
7 years ago.
More than 7 years ago. Coming up 7 years ago in a month.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Celebration, another stream.
Yeah. Another live stream for the anniversary. Then this becomes our therapy. Let's see. You get to wave a magic wand. What's the one thing you would change about your job? The algorithm is one thing you can't change. I'll yell for you when we have more questions for you, Daria. Just without even a goodbye off microphone. I don't know. I love every part of the process. I make it difficult. It doesn't need to be as hard as I make it. I choose to be doing, not just 10, 12, 13 drafts of video, but also to try and get out content as fast as we do. I've slowed down a little bit this year. I ended up in the hospital last year. Thanks to the videos. And it was over such a stupid one. It was we did this video on what's it called? The J Festival, the vegan festival. And I was trying to write this into a video, and I just couldn't crack it. I couldn't crack it. And, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I'm just like up all night for like 3-4 straight nights, getting an hour of sleep, just trying to get these new draft, send it off. Producer edits it, throws it back to me, redo it, send it back, just going through like segment by segment, trying to figure it out. And I'm just racking my brain, writing and rewriting and trying to get this out. And me and Daria go out to dinner. We take a break from writing, and we go out to dinner, and we're walking back, and and I just pass out. Like I just pass out. And I ended up going to get checked to make sure it's not like my heart, it's not, you know, anything serious. And it was honestly, it was as dumb as, it's not even lack of sleep, although I'm sure that was part of it. It was just that like my eyes had just adjusted to just staring at a screen for so many days in a row that I was basically getting like vertigo, that like walking was, you know. And so yeah, I had to kind of after that slow down. And of course, I compensated by making the videos 2 times longer. Yeah, but that's all me. That's I could do that differently if I wanted to. I'm a competitive person, and I love doing this. I don't think there's anything I would change other than I think Adobe Premiere's audio editing software sucks. That's it. Yeah, beyond that, I'm very happy with the process of making the videos. Let's see. Princely Dread 96. When are we going to have a Russian OTR video hosted by Daria? One day. I had this dream for a while of writing, back when I was writing, before we did the channel, I had this dream of riding the Trans-Siberian Railroad and stopping at every KHL hockey city along the way and just going to drink with the locals and see a hockey game and eat the local food. And obviously, since the war, that is off the table. Neither of us can go to Russia for reasons that we're not going to talk about in this video right now. But that's a plan that is not going to happen. But fascinated by the Slavic world, me and Daria are most likely going to be in Tashkent, Uzbekistan later this year. Love to make a video there, and maybe Daria can lead and host one of those. I would love that. She would love that slightly less. But yeah. Do we have any more questions here? All right, getting towards the end of this. So 2 questions I'll take on, and then I'm going to start slowly winding this down. All right, what are the meanings behind your tattoos? I only have 2. One of them is a ridiculous story. This one is for it's a mariner's compass with 4 coordinate points, which are Charlottesville, Virginia, where I come from originally. I was born in New York, but grew up in 20 years in Charlottesville, Virginia. One of them is Beijing, which is the city I was living in at the time, in a place that is very near and dear to my heart. One of them is Medan in North Sumatra, which is a place that was always kind of my second home since I moved to Asia. And the 4th one is Hong Kong. So those are the 4 cities that had the most meaning to me. The other tattoo is just the dumbest thing that I always forget that I have. It's song lyrics on my side, and that was just a drunken bet that went sideways. And yeah, I always forget that I had that. So I think we're getting towards the end of this. If anybody has any other questions, you mentioned that you have an old channel filming Chinese food. That's not me. I think that was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. I don't know what that would. I don't know what that would be, but I don't have any other YouTube channels. I did have one. That's a different story. I had a little stupid, fun talk show music channel we put up on YouTube back in 2006 when YouTube first launched. But that's long gone now. That was the minute YouTube started to implement copyright violations, we were just thrown off the platform right away because we had no idea what that stuff was. We were just putting all kinds of music, whatever music we wanted to use, we had that in the background. Any other questions that I have not already covered? Let me quickly check if there's any more from Instagram that I didn't quite get to yet. Pardon me for just a second. You what? I answered everything from Instagram. There was one more, I thought. Will you come visit Phetchaburi? That was the one that I didn't remember to get to because that was the last one sent in. Will you come to visit Phetchaburi? We did. Check the channel about a year and a half ago. We did a video called, I think it was called like, is this the best food city in Thailand? I love Phetchaburi. We did a video there, and it's a really fun one. So yeah, apologies that I didn't get to that question earlier. I missed that, and let me quickly check if there's any more that we got on YouTube. Oh, do you plan to make any videos about cremation books traditions in Thailand? This was just added to our YouTube thing. Most of them, the funeral books, contain a lot of rare, old school, and even ancient recipes, and it's a unique tradition in Thailand as well. Yes, I use that sometimes as a huge resource in our research. Somebody asked earlier about Chef Aspler, Hanuman up in Chiang Mai. That's sort of his thing, as far as I'm aware. And so that would be a fun video to do, to kind of talk about with him and see his collection. Apparently he has an enormous collection of those. And I think we're kind of getting towards the end. I almost feel like it's only what are we now? 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's nothing. I can keep going. We can keep going a little bit longer. What's your favorite restaurant in Hong Kong? What is my favorite restaurant in Hong Kong that is not closed by now? It was Lung Ki. Daria, is it too cold for you? Did you say? You got it. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so no, it used to be, I think it was called Lung Ki. It was the best char siu in the entire world on Gage Street in Soho. That's gone. That's been gone for a long time. Then it was Yat Lok, which is the best roast goose in in the entire world. And I would fly from Beijing once a month just for that meal. That was in Tai Po Market. That's gone. And my understanding is, Hong Kong real estate is so ridiculous. After like 80 years open, the owners got an offer for something just insane. Like I think it was 100 million Hong Kong dollars. So that's like 11 million US for the place, and they took the offer, and we lost the best roast goose in the world. I'm trying to remember the name of the one. Daria, let me quickly. I know the one you're talking about. I think right now, if I adore Hong Kong, there's so much food in Hong Kong that I can't really, imagine a trip there without going to. But how did I not pin this? I think my first meal back whenever I'm in Hong Kong is called, my Cantonese pronunciation sucks, but Lin Hung Kui, which is this. Hang on, let me try and get it to pick up on the camera. This is like, play the Benny Hill music. Lin Hyung Kui. Apologies for the pronunciation. It's a pushcart dim sum restaurant. It's not the oldest one in Hong Kong. There are older ones, but it's just like it's in Shangwan, Devo Road West. Yeah, it's Devo Road West in Hong Kong. Let's try it a little bit further back. Maybe adjust the lighting. There we go. Now you can see it. That's my personal favorite experience of eating in Hong Kong from places that are still open now. Yeah, pushcart dim sum, like old Cantonese men reading newspapers, carts getting pushed around. That is Hong Kong to me, and that's I lived in Hong Kong more than one occasion for a stretch of time. I've spent probably cumulatively 2 years of my life in Hong Kong. I adore Hong Kong. That's my favorite personal. Is it the best food in Hong Kong? Maybe not. The vibe and the experience and the atmosphere, and the food is great. That's my answer for my favorite restaurant in Hong Kong now. But in the past, it was other ones. Your favorite food trip in Thailand outside of Bangkok? I mentioned Chantaburi earlier. I think Chantaburi is just such a fascinating and wild and ridiculous place that is so unique in its food culture. But for me, I am a Southern. In a past life, I was a Southern Thai. Send me down south. Krabi, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Trang. I have never explored further south. I really want to see Songkhla and Patani from a food standpoint. Maybe it's the Muslim influence because, again, I used to live in Indonesia, and I'm deeply in love with Malaysian and Indonesian food, and there's a lot of overlap. But like, yeah, Southern Thai food. Give me the spiciest curries you've got. Give me those funky fermented fish entrail soups, and give me roti and cow yum and hat yai fried chicken. Like I'm in heaven in the south of Thailand, and that to me that's my favorite food destination. But there's a lot. I mean, again, how do you choose, right? Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm overlooking Isan, because how could you? I mean, that's like, every day there is a food paradise as well, and then you know, again, there's just no shortage of things and places to explore. So it seems like there's still new people coming in. I'm gonna be up here all night. Daria, I might need another coffee. Um, can we see the dogs? I just scroll back in the live stream. We had the dogs on for a while. I don't want to bother them again. Um, favorite Cantonese dish, and does Daria cook Russian food for you? And what is your favorite Russian food? Daria has the same problem I do. I was a restaurant chef for a long time, and I cook like I was a restaurant chef. And that means two things. Number one, I use all the equipment in our house to make anything. So it's a disaster because I'm using, like, if I'm making burgers, I'm using 15 pots and pans to get all the components exactly right. And I can't make a small portion of it. I make restaurant sized portions of everything. If I'm making a salad, it's a salad for 25 people. Just that's the only measurements that I understand, apparently. Daria is the same. When Daria cooks, it's like, all right, well, let's be prepared to eat this buckwheat for the next 9 days because she's making 50 kilos of it. Let's see what else. There was something else I just scrolled past. Favorite Cantonese dish: siu mei, roasted meats. I like bolo yo, if you want the pineapple buns with a big pat of butter. Give me one of those. But like, all respect to Cantonese food, it's not personally my favorite Chinese. I like spicy stuff. I like big flavors. I think Cantonese food is a very broad category, and there's a lot of amazing, Cantonese dishes and cuisines. But for me, if you were to drop me into any part of China, I'm personally Sichuan, Yunnan, Guizhou would be number one, and then number two would be Dongbei, way up north, where and I love the big stews of and the meats and breads of Heilongjiang and Liaoning, but like in Inner Mongolia, even the eastern part. But Cantonese, nothing beats char siu, roasted goose. The Cantonese do roasted meats better than anyone else on earth. So that would be my answer to that question. And where else are we? What does your and Daria's family think of your content or job as a YouTube content creator? My family enjoys getting to see me on camera, and presumably right now. So I think that's good, because at least they feel like I'm closer to home. Daria's family, Daria's sister and her husband, who are great people, came to visit us in Bangkok about 6 months after we started the channel, and thankfully they arrived like 2 days, 2 days before 2 days after the Burmese food video became our first one that went viral. It took us from like 1,000 subscribers to 8,000 overnight. That was, as Daria was kind of joking with me, she's like, thank goodness that took off right before they came, because I didn't have to explain to my sister that, like, hey, I want you to meet Adam. He's a almost 40-year-old YouTuber who has 25 viewers on his channel. So yeah, no, that was that. Her family's great. They understand. Yeah, no worries. Calling Hong Kong China legally, it is I didn't call Hong Kong China. I said Hong Kong is part of Cantonese cuisine, to answer your question. I'm not getting into the politics of this, but yeah, no, trust me, that's certainly not intending to make that declaration in this. But do you want or need anything from Australia that I can bring over for you? Let me give that some thought. What do you have in Australia that I can't get here, other than like functional, no, this isn't China. We can get like good shampoos and basic essentials here. That's what I used to have to ask people for from the West, was like a stick of deodorant and things like that. No, I don't know. I mean, you tell me if you can think of something that would be really cool. then yeah, I trust you. I don't really know. Um, Marmite. Yeah, Marmite. There we go. Daria's never tried Vegemite or Marmite. That would be great. Um, yeah, we should. She'll like it, I think. She doesn't really like sweet stuff, so this seems to fit her palate pretty well. Uh, was there anything else that I've missed before I start to wrap this up? When Daria gets back, before I turn this off, I'm gonna bring the dogs back on camera because a couple of people have asked. The folder says, "Will you make?" Oh, this is a cool question. Will you make the second part of the verse of food and desserts video on the dessert side of it? Yes, one day. The problem is, I am from a story perspective. Yeah, it's an obvious one. Like we did the savory half of it. It would be a smart decision to just, it would be a really easy one for us to do the dessert side of the verse of food and dessert. My issue with that is, if you watch the Patreon only live stream, which is the first time we did something like this, I talked about this. So I apologize if you've heard me say this before. I have this thing where sometimes people in the comments will say, like, I think, you are just eating what we see on camera. I hate influencers who just take a couple bites of something and then just waste the food. And I think that's the perception, is that that's what, everyone does. I really make an effort to eat every bite of everything, even if we're not filming it. We're eating 6-7 places in one day, but I'm trying to eat, not because I feel like I want to, but because I have this deep-seated terror of, we're filming in a lot of places where this is like somebody's life's work. It's second, third generation family business. They're really proud of the food they're making. And I feel like if I don't finish what's on the plate, or at least make a real effort to do it, that they're going to think I don't like it. And I'm really scared of that. I don't want people to feel like I don't appreciate, because the whole reason we're doing the channel is because of how much I love and appreciate, people who spend their life just perfecting something. And so, I want to finish what's on the plate. I want to show the chef the respect, and maybe they don't care, but it's me more than it's them. But I want to show the cooks that I, respect what they're doing. And the easiest way is to enjoy their food. That is hard for some things. Their dessert is a big challenge. There's a reason why we haven't done a lot of sweet meals, because I just can't imagine how, like, when I was 23, no problem, could do it, no problem. By now, like, just the terror of having like 10 plates of dessert, in a single day. I'm just gonna, the sugar crash, I'm gonna be like, you're gonna be carrying me from place to place. I'm gonna fall into a diabetic coma. Like, I just, the only reason why we don't do the verse of food and dessert side is because I'm terrified to do it personally. Yeah, that's it. So we get a question saying, wait, did you really eat everything on the 24 hours video? Which 24 hours video? Every video you've ever seen. Yes, I ate what you saw on screen. So have you thought of publishing your research in a history or sociological journal? I love writing. I would love any opportunity to write. I'm not doing, I was having this conversation, the Lonely Planet video we just did. Me and Joe Cummings were talking off the air about the difference between, research and field work. I think if I can humbly say, I think I'm pretty good at giving context to something, at putting pieces together in a way that makes it make sense. But I'm not uncovering new details. I'm not out in the field digging and finding things. I'm taking the work that the real experts have done and trying to package it in a way that makes sense in context, and maybe fills in some missing pieces, in telling a narrative, and also separating fact from fiction, because there's so much lazy work out there. And I take pride in hopefully cutting through some of that. But do I feel like the work that I'm doing deserves to be published in academia? Um, no, I think that I'm happy to tell stories. I'm happy to help. But like, this is other people's, the real heroes are the anthropologists and historians who are writing these papers that I then get to pour over and distill into something that is, entertaining and makes a good video. Yeah, let's see. Have you thought about making a full history video? We kind of do. I think we're kind of running down towards the end of this. What Thai dish have you best mastered? I'm gonna say 3 more questions, and then by that point, we should be about 2.5 hours. Daria can come over and say goodnight. We can bring the dogs over. I think 2.5. And thank you, by the way. I don't mean to ignore seeing some people having supported this with money on screen. It's just, that's insane to me, and I really appreciate it, and it's a lifesaver. This has been a really bad month financially for the channel, so thank you so much for your support, and I'll go back and look through that later. Again, I'm just trying my best to keep up with the questions that are being asked, so I'm missing some of the messages as they come up, but I see it, and I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. So thank you so much. Seriously, thank you. And I'm sorry that I can't call out everybody one by one, but I'm just trying so hard to keep up with the questions showing up on screen. So let's say 3 more questions. And then I'm going to bring the dogs over and bring Daria over, and we will wrap it up there. Andrew Dunbar says, what Thai dish have you best mastered cooking yourself? And which do you most wish you could make, but you're not happy with yet? I'm going to treat that as one question. No worries. So Andrew, that question, what have I mastered cooking myself? I'm a curry guy. I love curries. I love cooking curries. I love the process of making curries. I love using a mortar and pestle. I'm pretty good, if I can, again, humbly say, at making curries. I've done it in multiple restaurants, and I trained with the real master chefs. And by that, I mean my friends' grandparents in Indonesia and Malaysia. And so that's a skill that I feel good about technically. I love Thai ingredients, and I love using Thai ingredients in curries. I think that that's something where I would put my curry paste and curry making skills up there with a lot of people. Obviously, I'm not a master Thai chef, but I can make a pretty good curry. And that's, I'm constantly trying to do different kinds of stuff, but I don't really care so much in curries about trying to be perfectly authentic to an individual recipe. That's the fun of cooking to me, is using flavors that I like. And you learn something once and then you kind of make it your own. But the techniques of making a lot of Thai curries, especially Southern Thai curries, is something that I think I'm pretty good at. The second question would be, the second part of that first question would be, what am I not good at that I wish I could make better? Everything else. Everything else. Yeah, everything else. What would be something that I wish that I could learn how to make, and kind of, I don't want to make everything. I'm okay to have some mystery. I like trying something and having some magic and mystery behind it, and not understanding how it is actually made. Where else are we on questions? Next one, let's see. Where was I here? Sorry, losing my place. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to get a question in, please do it, because I'd love to be able to answer some questions if you've been trying to get in and I haven't gotten to you before I wrap up, and keep answering questions from the same people, which is cool, and I appreciate you participating. But anybody who's tried to participate and hasn't been able to ask a question, get it in now, and that is going to be the end of the video. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going in order. I guess I'll check one last time as well with the OTR channel page to see if there's any other questions sent in that way before I wrap this up. I don't think so. I think we're kind of coming down. Have I just spoken you guys all into boredom? We're kind of at the end. I guess we're sort of getting there. Well, this is an interesting one. I'm not sure that this is intended as, there's no question mark, so it might be a rhetorical question, but haven't answered a question from Keon Nunes yet, or Nunes, apologies. Keon or Keone Nunes. Sorry, I'm doing my best. How did Thai food taste prior to the introduction of chili peppers? Great question, and one of the most fascinating things we pursue on the channel is trying to unravel what did something taste like before chili peppers. The short answer is, there was use of black pepper. Fresh black pepper was something that was a lot more widely used, especially in the non-central Thai basin, the river basin. So it's not that there was no spice. Black pepper was used. Long pepper was imported from India, but things that were imported weren't really accessible to the masses because it was a little bit too expensive. But you can go to southern Cambodia, where typically fresh black pepper is still the spice that's used. That's the spice that's used. I mean, in Thai jungle curry as well, but that typically also uses red chili peppers, bird's eye chili peppers too. And so you had to taste what a curry can taste like that only uses black pepper as a flavoring agent for spiciness. Yeah, southern Cambodia, Kampot pepper. That's a great region to try it, and it's fairly spicy. You can still get a lot of flavor out of just using black pepper as a spice agent. Daria, would you like to come back to say a good night before I wrap this up? I apologize, by the way, if I've missed any questions. Can we have a Kungjom tasting in the next live stream? Sure. Why not? I'm open to any suggestions about how you'd like the next live stream. I enjoy doing this. Obviously, I've been talking for 2.5 hours, so I'm having some fun with this. We'll do it again, and we can take suggestions and ideas on how we would do it. Hi, Blanca, Daria, Vango. Do you want to come say goodnight? Come, Vango. She's not a fan of being picked up, so I'll be quick. But Vango, you gotta say goodnight. Blanca. All right, I guess from all of us here at OTR, thank you for 2 amazing years. Fucking 2 years, it's crazy. Daria, thank you for your support for the last 2 years. The dogs are not sure what's happening. They don't understand the concept of a live stream. Like we're on YouTube, Vango. They don't really get what's happening right now, but they're just understanding that it's 10:30 at night, and that means it's time for their evening walk. So, dogs, do you want to go out?
All right.
I think it's time.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, and Vango unplugs my laptop at just the right moment. Good night, guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining, and I promise we will do this again sometime. And thank you for the last couple of years. My pleasure to do this, and I can't imagine doing anything else. So I look forward to you seeing what we have coming, and I promise we'll keep doing our best and making the best videos that we possibly can. So thank you guys so much.